Let's start this one more time.
So we just were ad-libbing.
We're good now.
We're good now.
Hey everybody, welcome to All Wings Considered, the show that does eventually have the correct sound.
Yes. There we go. Now we're okay.
I am Ben Loaf-Lesnick, and I am joined by...
Jason Dunderdall McHale.
We're Wing Commander fans, and we have been putting together a kind of Wing Commander variety show in our spare time over the last...
couple of months,
I guess, even. Yeah, we've been doing test shows, and now we figured we'd start sharing this with rest of the world.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I should probably open that chat window open.
Watch the chat. There'll be actually people chatting now, maybe.
Right.
So,
that's right. I forgot about that. My apologies.
So just talk about the show a little bit before we get started. The world, definitely, obviously, big question you would have is, does the world need a weekly streaming show about Wing Commander? And the answer is a resounding no, but it's going to be so much fun.
It's a good, it's reason enough.
My philosophy is to share the things you love with the world and then go from them to learn more and figure out different things and develop. So, I take Wing Commander as the starting point, and I learn about history and literature and
all kinds of weird stuff we've picked
learn
up.
to do technical stuff and make things, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The Wing Commander community is incredible. They've been around all these years, still hanging on, still producing mods and creating artwork and discovering new things about the history of the game, and we love everything about that. We love the fan projects. We love the in-universe story of the super pulpy Wing Commander universe. We love the history of the development, Chris Roberts and all of them coming together to make these games at a particular point in time. I love Wing Commander. I want to share that with everybody else.
That's true. That's very true. We have a good show, good reasons, right?
Absolutely.
So where are we?
So this is a little bit weird because we've done this a couple times, but let's walk you through what the show is going to be like. We start off with just this sort of this chat part. We're going to share some of the Wing Commander stuff we've learned or encountered or talked about or done in the last week, a little bit about our lives. Yeah. Then we've got a news segment that's like the Wing Commander news for the week, which we pull from WC News. And then we have different features each week. Sometimes we'll do like a question and answer. Sometimes we'll play part of a game. Sometimes we'll examine different things. Yeah, we've got a cargo bay segment where we see what we're added to the Wing Commander collection in back of me each week. Yep. And the idea is, be part of the community and have fun. We're going to invite everybody out there to be part of this. And before I go any further, I want to thank some of the people who have helped us so far. Especially the Damn Shames, who did a bunch of our artwork. Rule of thumb, if artwork in the show is bad, that was this guy. If it's really cool, it was the Damn Shames. They're incredibly talented, and they've done a bunch of cool stuff for us. Uth O'Reilly did some remastered Wing Commander music, which we featured in the pre-roll. If that sound actually worked, we'll find out in a couple hours. Who knows?
Well, I hope the music played and everything.
Yeah, and we've got that over the credits, so you'll hear some of that.
We can play it at the very, very end then.
So
sneak it in.
Neither of us know what we're doing. We kind of started this as a way to learn. We figured out.
Well, you've been a lot more learning. I'm kind of just here, giving you support.
Yes.
A lot of the times.
So Jason and I have known each other for many, many, many years as part of the Wing Commander community. We both happen to, for a time anyway, live in the same area in Maryland.
Down the street, almost.
So we figured,
why not
put on a show, as the writers in the sky say.
That's very true.
And yes, we will be doing this the cowboy way.
I'm not sure what that means, but right on. Let's ride it.
So how was your week?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Helped you put together this. Other than that, not a whole much has happened, really. Okay. I got not a whole lot of excitement, to be honest.
All right. We had a minor snowpocalypse.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was ice and snow everywhere. Today it's all melted.
Yeah, it was 55 degrees today. Snowed 3 inches yesterday, but everything's good. It's actually quite nice still right now.
Right. And of course, we didn't do any sort of test show last week, so we missed Valentine's Day. So here's the love arrow.
Hey, Oh, I was going to say you didn't have it pulsing. There you go. That's one way to do it.
This is a new high-res love.
I was going to say, that looks very fancy.
It's as high-res as Wing Commander 3 gets.
Ooh,
so,
well, all right, then.
yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
A week ago.
Yes. No, we never said we were on top of the news.
No.
We just said we reported it. That's it.
I don't know if we even said that specifically.
Yeah, I guess we just thought, yeah.
We're news adjacent, really.
Yeah, we're news when we feel like it. Right?
All right, so shall we look at some of our Commander stuff from the week?
Yes, certainly. We've had, right, the first thing I'm assuming you have up is something you've been waiting for a while.
Oh, my mat, yes.
Yes, your crafty handiwork.
Right. So,
very cool.
One, I recently wanted to learn how to use Adobe Illustrator.
Yep.
Which is a program
for
illustrating things. And I kind of set as my project.
That's it.
I've got the real thing here. I said in my project I wanted to create a game mat for the Wing Commander card game from 1995. Mm-hmm. The original card game that used the Wing Commander rules, Star of the Guardians, came with like a fold-out paper mat, and then the Wing Commander version cheapened out by just having a little picture of how you should arrange the cards on a table. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to do was scan that tiny little card-sized picture, blow it up to the size that matches the actual cards, and then print it on a mat like you see for like Magic the Gathering and so on. And I was able to figure out how to do that in about 2 weeks. Here's the layout. That's the original tiny sketch. Yep. And now I am pleased to say we have our first prototype.
Hey!
Model that for us.
Wow, this is like the thing they put on you when you get like dental x-rays, like the lead vest. This is quite fancy.
It's very large.
I was going to say, I have to stand way, way back. That is huge. What is that?
It's kind of like a mouse pad material.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got like the mouse pad back, but it's 2 feet by 2.5 or something?
I think it's 24 by 24 maybe. Yeah, so that would be 2 feet by 2 feet.
That's 2 feet. That square. Apparently, this is why I'm not good with math and geometry. Right.
So I'm going to
also have it upside down.
Because it'll seem upside down either way. So you put it on a table and people sit on each side, and ones that carry the carry. So I've made a couple modifications to it since then. I'm going to post all the Illustrator files and stuff. If anybody else wants their own, it'll be up there. I'm also doing a 4-player version based on something that Don Parra, the creator of the card game, posted to the Usenet. So, that was fun.
That's pretty fancy.
Fancy. I've got a couple slideshows here I can show. Just no segues at all. Just go right in there and
roll. Just roll.
First, I wanted to show you folks this art by Ron Cobb, who is probably best known as the concept illustrator who did the Nostromo and all the interiors in Alien. Back in 1997, Ron Cobb did a series of sketches for ships for the Wing Commander movie that were unfortunately not used. But these have... I tweeted them at somebody on Twitter the other day, and then one of those, accounts that copies other people's Twitter started sharing it. So I figured, it's out there in the world. So his take on the rapier. That was his take on that's the Karathi Dreadnought. That's Shakarak.
That's different.
The Diligent.
Okay.
Broadsword.
No, not bad.
That's a different take on the Diligent, I believe.
Yeah. Nice.
And that's the Concordia.
Huh.
Which looks kind of like a milk jug.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, instantly my brain tried to associate that with some other shape. It's kind of funky.
Yeah, and the rapier looks kind of like it looks sort of like the rapier from the game, but it also looks kind of like the hammerhead from Space Boom Beyond.
Yeah, the front, and then the back it's kind of demon-esque from Privateer, but then has the split wings.
Yeah, got X-Wing, like a mix of all of everyone's favorite things.
All of the above.
I also thought this was funny. This was one of those stupid tweet cloud things where it takes all the text from your account and it tells you what it makes one of those super millennial diagrams. And I thought mine was great, so I wanted to share it.
Oh, there you go.
It's all Wing Commander. But that's what you're going to get on this show.
That's right.
All Wing Commander.
All the time.
Let me see what else.
This is what I thought you were going for.
Another interesting discovery in the last couple days.
What is this thing?
This is an unreleased version of Wing Commander 3. Basically, we discovered in the last couple days that Electronic Arts had a deal with Atari in 1995 that they were going to port Wing Commander 3 to the Jaguar CD. And we went back and we looked through all these articles on like archive.org, and sure enough, it mentions it in all sorts of places. They were going to have Wing Commander 3 for the Jaguar, which is one of the ways they wanted to make make as much money as possible in Wing Commander 3 was port it to all sorts of systems. There's a Macintosh port, there's a 3DO port, there's a PlayStation port, and so on. There's a Windows 95 port. And there are a couple over the years that we've known that never were finished or never even started, like in this case. There was a port for the M2, which was it was the sequel to the 3DO that was never released. Okay. But they did work on it. There was a port for the Sega Saturn, which was far left along to show at E3 in 1995, and now there's a third, Wing Commander 1946, in another world. If the Jaguar had taken off, that's the more interesting behind the scenes stuff. And the process of looking that up, I found first this ridiculous advertisement. This is Sony Europe's advertisement for Wing Commander 3 for the PlayStation.
I mean, I want to play Wing Commander looking at that.
Software, ? So,
yeah.
And from that, I found this even more ridiculous ad from Electronic Arts for their 3DO lineup, which included Super Wing Commander 3. The first two-page spread. This is the kind of thing that was in magazines at the time. So it's a dead fish, and that really captures gamers at the time, I guess. But this first one is for Super Wing Commander, and if you look closely, this cockpit is not from Super Wing Commander. This is somebody's mock-up art, but that's not one of the cockpits in the game. It could not even be one of the cockpits in the game because it does not have the VDUs and all the standard shapes. So it's just somebody's weird art that made it into this ad. And the still frame it's been placed over is from the intro.
Yes, it looks like the introduction right there, yeah.
And anyway, I decided to look up these because they said they were in a series. So here's the second one, which is Cubes of Lard, no Wing Commander in there. Weird. And then the third one is Wing Commander 3, which is
dessert
cakes. So
tea.
Who knows why the 3DO wasn't the most successful thing in the world?
I can't possibly imagine what went wrong. Did anything go wrong?
No. I also wanted to share this one. I was chatting on Twitter the other day, and Siobhan Beeman, who was the director of Wing Commander 2, had tweeted something about Taurus space stations. The classic 1980s round space station. NASA did all this concept art at the time where this is like inside of Babylon 5 where you see the arc of trees and things, and just mentioning them. And I said, is that where the space stations from Wing Commander 2 came from?
Yeah. And
she wrote back and said, no, it's not. Not directly, anyway. There were two inspirations for those, which were the Cylon base stars from Babylon 5. By the way, I hope you enjoyed this multimedia extravaganza. Battlestar Galactica.
You got Babylon 5 on the brain.
Babylon 5 on the brain.
Never good.
And the second one, which seems so obvious after she said it, and now I can't not see, the Starfleet headquarters from the Franz Joseph Starfleet Tactical Manual from the late 70s. This was like the Star Trek Bible before there was what we consider Star Trek today. So this was supposed to be like the Federation's headquarters and the starships go inside. It would be before even the movies where they had the big star bases.
Yeah, the McKinley.
They're the Earth one.
Yeah.
So she tweeted a bit more with me about inspirations for Wing Commander 2, and I thought I would share them because I'm interested in going back and learning more about them. And I thought I'd just run through them here quick. Oh. This is the Azati High Lightning dreadnought or warship from the Traveler universe, which was the basis for the Concordia's keel weapon.
Oh, okay.
It's another ship based around a giant gun. That's like the Concordia's phase transit cannon. Of course, Star Wars, Star Trek. She specified Star Trek, and then motion picture and Wrath of Khan, and again the tactical manual. World War II gun footage.
There you go.
Larry Niven's known space, which is if you're familiar with the Zinti, and there's a lot of Zinti in the Kilrathi, of course, but it's also a big shared universe that not even shared so much. It's shared in the Manzin sense, but he wrote all these novels set in the same world, novels and short stories, and it's one of the early examples of that. But it's very Wing Commander. You can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Top Gun, of course. What is Wing Commander without Top Gun?
Yeah.
Traveler, the original Traveler. And you can see there in the title, look, Free Trader. They took that for the name of the class for one of the ships in Wing Commander 2. Yeah. And
there's a TCS Beowulf as well.
But yeah, there is a TCS Beowulf from Wing Commander 2.
Yeah.
And let me turn off that slideshow for a second. The last one of those reference books was this that I then went and ordered from Amazon and immediately forgot about, which is the Cambridge Encyclopedia of Astronomy. Oh. So I'm working on reading through this and figuring out how jump points work and such.
Just by pulling them out of nowhere?
So I will hopefully have an update in a future week about what I got from that. She also told me about this, which is a document we've known about for years, which is it's included in the Wing Commander Bible, and it's also reprinted, changed a little slightly for the Wing Commander movie, but the Confederation Handbook. But what we learned from this was, what I learned from this interaction was that it was originally written during the development of Wing Commander 2 as like background for the world of the game. So it's written as a lecture in the universe, but it was never published at the time. But it was included in the Bible that went off to the writers, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and it kind of made up the functioning of the Wing Commander universe, even though we never saw it. So that was fun. There's also a fantastic thread going on in the forums right now.
You are very excited about this.
I love this thread.
You really, really do.
You know this guy?
It's okay. I do know that guy.
All right. Who's that?
That is Hunter Toth from Privateer.
Hunter Toth. So there's a mission in Privateer where you are supposed to escort this guy, Hunter Toth, to the Oxford University planet to do... He's going to give the commencement for the class of 2669. And basically he's a pastiche of Salman Rushdie, who was a big celebrity at the time because he'd written a book called...
What is that book called?
It's called The Satanic Verses.
Ooh.
Yes, famous band book. So we're really courting controversy already. No. This was an early 90s thing where he received death threats because of his portrayal of Islam, and it's a whole thing. The actual book is magical realism. It's Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, 20 years later, but with an Indian and Islamic bent. Interesting, but for our purposes, what was most interesting was this character who is based on him in Privateer is based not only on how he looks, but on the specific picture of him in the back of this book.
Yep.
And someone noticed this, Dan R. on the forums noticed this, and we put all that together. So
from there.
I'm absolutely fascinated by that. But back in the day, when you wanted to do when you wanted to create a character or something in a game, you couldn't just Google, Salman Rushdie and get one of a million images. You literally had to go to the library and get his book, and of course the image would be the one at the back of the book. So I was totally fascinated by that thread and just a chance to think about that.
Connect those.
If you, and you kind of knew at the time, even if you didn't know what he looked like, because it's his he is someone who has written a book called Prometheus Unplugged, which is critical of what's called the Church of Man, which is the anti-technology religion in Privateer. He coined the term retros, which you all know is
we know and love.
So
and love.
So they hate him and they're out to get him, and you have to escort him to the University Planet. And it actually turns out that they eventually do get him. There's a bartender room in Righteous Fire where if you're talking to him, he's been taken by the retros. So I thought it would be fun to take a quick break from talking about Wing Commander and actually play that mission, which we can do because we consider all wings considered.
I didn't know what you were doing there, huh?
Yeah, I got Privateer ready and everything. It's a surprise Privateer escort mission.
Let's see what happens. There it goes.
There we go.
You gotta worry about that delay sometimes. For us, when we don't have the real screen.
I actually think what we have to do is learn not to worry about delay, because then we end up watching the menu.
True. That's true. Yes.
We are not professionals.
We are definitely not. No, well, you sure very good about the opening, and that was...
That was a mess.
That was awful.
So here we are at the Oxford University planet.
Oh.
We take a little train into the city.
Why not? What a nice campus, huh? Bell, clock tower. Right.
All right.
No students to be seen.
We go to the ship dealer, make sure I'm armed.
Yeah, the last thing you want is not to have missiles. Not having Imrex. Bad idea.
Because Imrex, the trick to these missions is just have a bunch. Okay, I'm loaded up on Imrex.
And that's what you gotta love. Hardwood floors in the ship dealer, though. They do spiff it up a bit for Oxford.
Oxford got unique art all around.
Yeah.
So now if I go to the library...
I'm sorry, but library use is restricted to students and teachers only.
Yeah? What makes you think I'm not enrolled at Oxford?
Students don't generally conduct research while armed.
Okay, you got me there. I'm a privateer.
Sorry, access exceptions are only made for endowment sponsors.
I never noticed that his hair...
And how would I go about doing that? Making an endowment?
If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Do you kind of look like that?
Maybe we can work a trade. I can apply for the university. Say 4 runs at a reduced rate in exchange for access to your files, Mr.
Masterson. Yes, your offer might substitute for an endowment.
Yeah.
You could
they want me to privateer a bit.
Kill a bunch of people and then you can use the library.
That's exactly how I got my National Archives card. Was yes, please.
What an awesome sweater, by the way.
That is It's an aggressive.
Good. Now
collar,
listen. We need you to ask.
Hell of a mustache too.
You will find him in the Oxford system in the vicinity of Nav 3.
That's
more Magnum here is named Hunter Todd.
Hunter Todd.
He's kind of like the intellectual Magnum PI.
Prometheus Unplugged. The Church of Man has marked him for death because of it. He's scheduled to give a commencement speech here, and he's already cashed the check. Unfortunately, the Church of Man has vowed he will never reach Oxford.
That's one vow those freaks will have to break. I'll bring him. Count on it.
All right. Let's go rescue a Draymond.
Why not?
One of the things we'll do in future events, we'll do long streams of the games, we'll do short streams, just all sorts of...
Except there's one stream we'll probably not do again because we both were very, 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 very bad to the point we gave up.
Okay, here he is, and here's how conversations work in Privateer. I can select any of these options to start it.
Oh dear, are you one of those dreadful retros?
I'm no retro.
Please tell me you're not here to kill me.
His voice, though. I can say I'm here to escort him, or I can kill him.
Thank you, young man. I just hope we don't encounter any retros.
And I can also tell him that if we do encounter retros, we're dead.
Of that, I'm sure.
Hunter Tom, you're
I know
that lady.
He said he hoped we wouldn't encounter any retros, and then we did.
Probably need some guns.
We'll need some guns.
Yeah. That's for Ed. There's only one way to kill towns, and that's 2 very quick Imrex.
Yeah, they will kill him very quickly, so... You want to shoot Imrex as quick as possible. Yeah, look at the following it. Boom!
Tom, forget Oxford. Your next stop is hell.
See, there's custom taunts for this mission.
You don't even really use the joystick. It's just as easy just to sit there and just keep slamming down those impacts.
Which I have now done.
Was that about Grey Poupon I just saw?
It was about Grey Poupon.
Well, that is
business treating you well?
Because there's always a joke taunt for Oxford, for whatever the planet is. So like, I can just... You have any Grey Poupon? Scones in tea, anyone? Never mind.
Oh, boy.
Honestly, I think that was it. We had to kill those 5 retros very quickly, and we did.
Yeah, because you're not very far. Because the jump point's not very far from the planet.
Good to see a friendly ship.
No, in fact, I can... there's no need to, like, tie your escort in like you do for a regular Ring Commander game. Alright, he seems to... Oh, no, I flew back to the... Let's go make sure we did this right. Dr. Masterson with the 10,000.
Is it going to get mad because you didn't fly through the jump point, though? Because it was red.
Maybe. Gosh. Sometimes you have to outthink the games.
That's right. Sometimes you get so used to doing it, you don't think about it. Right?
I like how they have recorded all the usual merchant things in his voice, in addition to his little interaction dialogue.
It's very cool.
One of the reasons that we have the...
I guess it doesn't care.
It doesn't seem to care.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we have his... we only see him as a little portrait instead of a larger thing is to save space on for disk usage. But, of course, that doesn't matter in the CD. But that's why Privateer has so many of its conversations take place in the cockpit rather than on the ground. Because it's so much better use of space.
Now entering an automatic landing.
Gotta love Privateer, though.
It's a fantastic game. We've got to do like a Tarsus run. To take a weekend and do a Tarsus run of the game and stream the whole thing.
Yeah.
Listen to that music too. It's so good.
I wish it was.
I and the Oxford graduating class thank you for delivering Mr. Top unharmed.
Think of it as a tribute to free speech.
What's your second mission? Built within
Some low-level data pirates have been troubling us. We would like you to intercept them and end their activities. This mission pays 10,000 credits upon completion. Can you do it?
Not right now, Masterson.
Forget it. I'm already...
I see. A pity you'll never discover whatever you came here to learn. Well,
Yeah,
higher
we all know
education
what
isn't for
is.
everyone.
So, I don't know,
Yep.
I think that's a cool thing. We can have that thread in the forum pop up, we can play the game, we can read the book.
Yeah.
Back to small talk.
Hey. Welcome to... Let's see.
That might be all the small talk I have.
Nope, you have one. You should have one more, right?
No,
Did you include the... Did you do that one, the bottom one? Yeah.
Oh, yes. This was...
Yes.
So I'm still working on this big article, essentially, about the history of the Dragon Fighter from Wing Commander 4. It's going to be... I promised somebody I'd do a long tweet thread, and it became a book, basically. But as part of it, I wanted to find some way to show how ridiculous the fact that they list the dragon as 40 meters long is. And I wanted to find something else that was 40 miles long... 40 meters long to compare it. And this is what I figured out. It is the same length as a 727-100.
Hey.
Which is
not
right.
No.
So here, this is a nice, well, not nice, but this is a Ben quality.
This is a AWC quality image.
Ben AWC quality image that shows you.
Oh, look at it.
That dragon is way too big.
But it's the United Friendship. Yeah,
Remember United used to name all their aircraft?
Yeah, and you have a nice F-16 hidden down there in the corner.
I wanted to show what a regular fighter would look like.
All right.
And I picked an F-16 because, of course, Strike Commander.
Ooh.
All right, so let's talk regular news. This is the part of the look. We recreated the TCN set from Wing Commander 4, which we did by matching the font from a picture from Wing Commander 4.
Yep. Oh, and then it's the other side of the newsroom.
And this is the part of the show where we go through some of the stories from the last week that are on WC News, largely about what the Wing Commander community is doing, but all sorts of little things. And I get to do this. This is an article from scanned by Pix for his fantastic Pix's Origin Adventures website. This is a more recent article in PC Zone. He's in the process of digitally scanning every issue of PC Zone, which is a major UK gaming publication, and he has found. He's well past the 90s and all the interesting stuff, but now he's pulling out stuff that is interesting from later stuff. And Chris Reed posted this to the forums. It's a retro article about Wing Commander. So I'll scan and all the information about that is on WC News right now. And here is some exciting news for fans of fan projects. The Wing Commander Homeworld Prologue. The Wing Commander Homeworld mod Prologue has a new campaign mission that's been released. This is LAF's project and it's set just before Wing Commander 3. After the Battle of Earth, the Confederation is chasing down Kilrathi remnants as they retreat back to their space, and that is available for download and play now.
That's a great game. I'm still, trying to figure out fully how to understand. It's a game. Homeworld's a game that I always feel like I have a lot of fun playing, but don't always fully understand how to play all of it.
Yeah, I get that very much. It's there's a lot of games like that. I think I come from a very 90s mindset where to enjoy a game, I want to understand exactly how it works, and you really can't with a game today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, whenever I do that, I can play the original Homeworld, I guess, because it walks you through it, but even still, I feel like I only am using maybe 55% of its abilities. It's still awesome and fun, but you just don't know fully what you're doing all the time.
News story number 3 is a mod that Chris has discovered. It's available on Steamworks. It's a mod for Star Wars Empire at War. It's called Sci-Fi at War, that basically just mashes together a bunch of other mods and lets you fight universe to universe. So he's got a video up of Halo versus Wing Commander. You do Star Trek versus Star Wars versus Wing Commander.
Halo
all
versus
sorts of,
Wing Commander?
Yeah, there's video on WC News.
That's weird. I meant the Halo thing. I know it's on. It's a weird thing.
And possibly exciting to everyone who backed this, the Wing Commander Jazz album by George Oldzier it's now in the mail to everybody. So if you back this on Kickstarter, international and national and American, what's the opposite of international? Domestic.
I was like, what? Galactic? I don't know. You caught me off guard there.
So all the Jazz albums are going out, and we just can't wait for the next part of his campaign. And last but not least, all the technical problems today. An orchestra in Sweden has just this past February 9th played the Wing Commander Suite by the Fat Man and Dave Govett. And we are searching for video of that. I saw a couple videos on YouTube from other things at the same concert, which was like Dark Souls music and stuff. So if you're out there, post the Wing Commander one. We'll share it here.
Always.
So,
yes.
What is our gameplay today, other than Privateer, which was a surprise?
Oh, our gameplay today is going to tie into our book club later.
Okay.
In that, Loaf has called up some Wing Commander 4. We were trying to think of what would be appropriate for this week's book club, and as thinking, what came to mind is, ground support missions, blowing up stuff on the ground. Oh, Cersei, Wing Commander 4, anti-tank mission.
So we've loaded up the anti-tank mission from Wing Commander 4, which we're going to stream in just a moment. Hopefully, Wing Commander 4 and streaming are not necessarily best friends, but we've got it working in the tests. So to give a little bit of background about this, Wing Commander 3 and 4 use the 3D engine created for Strike Commander. It's called Real Space. So one of the things that they did with Wing Commander 3 was introduce the idea of planetary missions, which has been a fantasy of people all the way back to Wing Commander 1. There's an immersion thing in Secret Missions 2 where the Colonel specifically warns you not to fly in an atmosphere.
But
I can't do that in the game.
But I really, really want to. And then I see why I don't want to.
So finally, Wing Commander 3 has 4 ground missions. Is that right? 4, yeah.
4. What is it? Here, the photo missions.
I'm thinking. Wing Commander 3 has 4 of them, which is T-bomb test, final T-bomb,
shield generator,
and prison break.
Prison break. And then the second one, it's prison. Wing Commander 4 has prison break, or no, that's the space station.
That's the space station.
So it's the photographs of the installation.
Photographs, and then 2 variants of that, and then 2 missions in search.
I guess that's a kidnapping on the ground, then, right? Where they do the that's what I was thinking the jailbreak for.
There's 5 missions in Wing Commander 4. Yep. Because they used the Strike Commander's 3D engine, it was a relatively simple thing to add terrain back into the game. And the way they did that was essentially just a object in the game that's just a giant flat piece that's terrain. It's not even textured in Wing Commander 3. It's just kind of
a blur,
shaded.
It's colored.
It feels like an afterthought in every use, but it's absolutely fascinating. And Wing Commander 4, they decided to up it a little bit. They add some texture to the ground. There's a couple modifications to the cockpit that make it seem like it's supposed to be there more. It's still really rough.
The flight model's weird.
There's so much potential there, and I thought, games these days, it's just incredible what you do with the planet. If you've played Star Citizen or No Man's Sky, it's incredible. You fly down into an atmosphere, and it's all one map and everything. It's what we dreamed of back then. So we thought we would go back in time and show what the first iteration of that, which is clunky as all heck, but
those transition videos are awesome, right? Who didn't want to see the Hellcat and the Vindicator and then the Excalibur, right, coming in, seeing the heat come off of it? That was awesome. Right, all those, you always love those clips.
All right, so you watch that carefully. Let me.
I'm trying not to watch it because we thought we were learning, but yes, let's see. Okay, yep, I see the light. Yeah, I think you're doing well.
Okay.
Yep,
it's actually streaming with Commander 4.
This is good. It was a little nervous earlier.
Oh, you know what? Let me load this one, which is where we select the mission. All right. So Wing Commander 4 gives you at this point the choice between two different series in the game. You can pick the fun ones, Paradigm, where you go and raid a Confederation base and
awesome stuff.
Collect cool toys.
Yeah, you get to attack a carrier.
You attack a carrier, you get Mace nuclear missiles,
Yep.
you get cone bursts, you get
Bearcats.
Bearcats.
You get all the awesome stuff. And then this
is the goody two shoes.
This is a good person one.
So
this is the humanitarian suffrage.
Wing Commander 4 determines its end game much like how they thought Mass Effect was going to, which was it has a value for the ship's morale, and there is a certain point where if it's above this level, then you get the good ending where you have a happy life, and if it's below that, you become an evil admiral. So selecting this
with a bigger paycheck.
With a bigger paycheck, yes. Well, he's still a general in the other one, so it's probably the same paycheck.
Yeah, okay.
So it either bumps. So
yeah, well, he's a flight flight commander at that point, right? He's a teacher.
He's a teacher.
Instructor. So
yeah,
I'm gonna guess the
he
admiral.
gets to fly.
Yeah.
So,
which doesn't even make any sense that he's a general. But anyway,
spoiler warnings, everyone.
Yeah. If you haven't played it, who knows?
So, the only reason to choose this series, which is tougher and not rewarding in any way, is if you want the good ending. If you want to play with the cool toys, you take the other one, and we'll definitely do a run later.
You can still get the good ending.
Yeah, you can. If you choose the right options with everybody, and you can still.
And
you can ignore the sufferings of innocence and still get the reward, basically.
And avoid Cersei, because this is one you just do once.
And once you get to this series, they give you an option of 3 missions in this briefing, which I will conduct right now. This is not like normal briefing. So this is for rescuing refugees, transport boarding. You go to a planet and you escort shuttles up to the frigates. Search and destroy is just a fun one. It's blow up capital ships.
Everybody loves that. It's always my favorite.
So we're going to take a look at Shutdown Tank Offensive. And here's the cutscene. Which will hopefully play correctly.
Yeah, we'll see. What are we saying? We're assuming there's sound. Keep that control installation from being overrun. Well forgot.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, he said hooray for okay, so it works.
Alright.
Yeah.
Hooray for working cutscenes, Musiker says, so that is...
audio a little low, he says, though.
I've noticed that in general with the DVD. I think that's going to be something I have to go much deeper for.
That can be in show 17.
So in the when you're flying for the Border Worlds for planetary missions, you are only allowed to choose the Vindicator, which for some reason they default to dumbfires. I have no use for dumbfires in Wing Commander.
Nobody has use for those ever.
Some IRs.
Unless you're doing a capital ship kill mission and you want to make sure.
Yeah.
But you still bring the torpedoes because you never know.
There's the Vindicator. Those guys. Wing configuration. Who do you guys like?
Primate. There's only Primate.
Primate. Okay, Primate is the best pilot in the game.
Yep.
So we will get some
Yeah.
Primate.
Maybe I'll negotiate with them.
Alright.
tale of its mercenary ground assault on the Climate Control Center.
And one thing you notice in Wing Commander 4 immediately is no cool takeoff, no dun 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 dun.
No loading thing, and your disc spin up.
We just get the textures in the ship are very, very pretty for the era, but there's something missing there where this game was made in an incredibly short amount of time, which required that they cut some things like that. You may notice there's no transitions in the second half of the game. And unfortunately, at the time, one thing that everybody would say was, "Oh, we did that because we saw people turned off the cockpits, or it was feedback. That's why we didn't have that." Yeah. It's time. It's all time. And unfortunately, the rest of the industry then copied it. Like, "Oh, we don't need these extras, so we won't have them in Free Space or Star Lancer."
That's right. Yeah.
So
and then the Korathi space, we'll make the option to remove them.
So after a while, all space sims look just like this, which is unfortunate.
We got company.
We know.
Should be wearing my space.
No, that's for. We can't bring everything out the first time.
No, I mean we should be wearing my earphones.
Oh,
headphones.
so you can hear. Oh, they're over there. It's all right. We should let time to loose that. I'm not here. I bet you go through it. On second thought,
Break formation and open fire.
is Primate's profile based on one of the developers? That's a question from the crowd.
Yeah, so all of the characters are developers. All the little photos of different red shirts are Enemy Commander 4 team members. But they don't necessarily match the names of the people that they are, because the names listed are all Commander developers. Primate is Dean McCall in this version. If you play the Sega or Sony PlayStation version, they changed the names to the Sony development team without changing the pictures. The way the game does this is it treats everything after the cutscene as essentially a separate mission. You have these great... You plays that flick, and then you'll notice, for instance, my guns had to be changed again, because my settings have all been reset.
Yeah, so one of the things I used to do if I was kind of quick, I would have invulnerability turned on, and then I would mess with the power settings so that I would not have my crew pointless, so I could have more gun. Although the flight model for ground missions is less than
Yeah.
It's, I'm not really sure what they're trying to go for, since it really just makes it kind of annoying. Although if you have rudder pedals, it is a lot easier to go back. Right now, Danny's going to continue to fly sideways, because why? It's the easier thing to do than trying to level out over and over again.
And in fact, the base version of Wing Commander 4 does not have rudder pedals. So
that would be something for our data testing shows with thrust master mounts and all these other things that we will return to at later dates. Hook up some of those plastic sticks.
in fact, next week I think we're gonna do.
Should you tell them already?
Yeah, we're doing Armada match.
Oh yeah, well yes, Armada. Yes, Armada was a game that when we first started doing this, we gave it a lot of love, and it was we learned a lot of cool things, a lot of annoying things that maybe want to throw my stick out the window at a few times, but that's all right.
So now that we've cleared out these enemy ships, I thought I would show you some of this ground. You can see they have mountains that are literally just triangles from a textured triangle on a sheet.
Pushed up. Yeah.
And this is such a small part of the game. This is 5 missions total, and at most you can play. You can play 4 of them. But yeah, you can see it's got this whole right at the nav. Wing 3 actually gives you a textured nav map that this does not. That's cool. It's different buildings and things. I remember. I'll show you what's wrong with the flight model right here. I just hit backspace.
Wow, look at that.
My ship is floating in the middle of the air.
Yeah. Well, we do know anti-gravity is something that they do. We'll actually, we'll talk about that in a few weeks, actually, in the book club about anti-gravity.
So there's like a ground turret.
Yeah, it's just
like a ship turret, but with little legs.
Yeah. And there's a look at that.
This is the climate control base.
Oh, those evil climate controllers.
see the object camera. You can see how I can just take the object camera and I can look underneath the world.
Wow.
So that's the underside or whatever.
That one piece of rock.
There's a Border Worlds tank.
Yeah, look at that. It's like a weird Taurus almost, right?
And this seems so cheap and bad compared to anything we played today, but it was so
insane
cool at the time.
Yeah, this was insane.
This blew our mind. There's my ship floating,
just chilling out
in the air.
Yeah.
And the other thing they add is a altimeter.
That's right. Yeah.
Apparently, that part matters.
Yeah. That really, really.
Vindicator. I used to love the Vindicator.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a pain now.
That's awesome.
But again, today you have this exact same experience, but it's not a flick.
Radar's empty. Let's move on.
Primate, you're so efficient.
He is. He's great at kind of. I guess so. 25 years for a model this year. This
Crazy.
Yeah. Sure, will be interesting. Ben and I figured out some of the weird things about Armada. Like we had two carrier, we had a dual carrier battle at one point.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, no, that was not interesting. That was not interesting at all. I hate you very much for that because we learned that in Armada, once you hit launch and your torpedo is leaving the rack, game over. No matter if he's
I already knew that.
If one frame,
I was about a frame away from losing the match entirely.
Well, then I could have just
got that
cleaned
torpedo
it up.
out.
Yeah, that made me furious.
The other part. Let me show you.
What you got?
I'm going to show you the intro for this series, which is. Skip that. This is where you choose between the two. So I would say Panther's right if we want to go to the. Here we
go. Yeah.
This is the cutscene of the tank battle, which is a little bit sexier than the implementation.
Yeah, this is very kind of Command and Conquer-ish.
This is super Origin. Now, this would feel right at home in. I say it would feel right at home in Crusader, but there's much more of a cinematic view to it. You can see he's got lines of sight, and it's they're thinking like a movie maker.
Oh, that's
Border Worlds fleet.
Yeah,
and
look at that. We've got all the cap ships in one place: a frigate, destroyer, cruiser, and then here we come.
And all this pre-rendered stuff is just feels like gravy. It's like a reward for you.
Yeah, it really is.
So.
It is, yeah. Very much is. Very, very much is.
Well, we could try another ground mission.
Of course. Well, that's what we're here for.
All right, we've got Cersei 5. You play.
Cersei 5.
As far as the game itself goes, you play through two of those three. You have to choose two, and the third one is unplayed. Mm-hmm. Then it gives you a fourth mission, which is to intercept supply line. During the course of that mission, you will get a distress call from Cat Scratch, and you can choose to go rescue him or not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
If you don't rescue him at all, you get this mission. This mission we're about to fly. If you do rescue him, you get a choice between repeating the previous mission and doing this one. So in this scenario, I have rescued him. I think I've rescued him. Let me see if he's still alive. Yes, he's still alive. So take Primate again.
Yeah, I guess nobody wants.
Oh wait, I don't get a wingman, do I? I guess I don't.
No, you do not, sir.
Okay. Well, let me at least get some.
That's right. You're gonna use your.
MIPS. This is a MIP mission.
Mippy.
And this is another one where I kind of question the decision because the MIPS are not necessarily fun, or they're not necessarily.
It's different.
They're fun, but they work a lot better in space than on the ground. On the ground, it just really reinforces the idea that the ground physics are not there yet. Because you'll see these pods flying in weird ways.
They do launch off in front directions. I recall that. You should probably put your headphones on.
There we go. There are three ground missions earlier in the game on a different planet, Tyr. It has different texturing, and
it's grassy.
You fly a Hellcat because you're comfat at that point. Here we are at Cersei 5 again. Oh, this gave us a nice pause on the planet before we Have to fly to the nav point.
And now you're already in your.
Now I'm already sideways.
Stupid roll physics. Although it's interesting that you can actually disable them if you go to the options menu. It does. Yep, I believe so. It lets you turn off the alternate.
The alternate flame mode.
Yeah, because that's what clicks on and off for this. This is the. I don't know why you put this in space. Though.
The ideal thing to do is to get a pair of pedals and play the Windows 95 version, so you can just. Yeah. Is there? There's no. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's key roll.
Yeah, it's the 2 arrows. Which really makes this a lot more fun. And then later, you need to prophecy and take advantage of things. Little underground base.
I was gonna drop missiles on some of those turrets to lighten up the AA.
Ship defenses aren't really deadly anymore. Unless you get hit by one of the heavier weapons. The capital ships laser cannons really just annoy you, or if you're track the situation, finish it.
But if there's a just revert back to an easy mode.
No, you just had more room where it felt. With the one rock texture, they clearly picture
Origin was at the time developing Longbow, which used some of the resources from this. It hadn't been built, but this was a starting point for that early James stuff.
Switch to what are your alternate guns? Stab? No, Stormfire and Leech.
Let's see, I've got a Leech gun. Just a Leech gun.
No, just a Leech gun.
Oh wait, no, I've got a Stormfire.
Yeah, I thought they all had the good old Stormfire.
Although in this case, what I need to do is target a MIP.
If you can see it, it's wonderfully washed.
So now I've fired 3 MIPs at this base, which really just looks like kind of a space anus in the...
Yeah, it really does. What's even weirder
I can
is...
follow the MIPs in.
Which, wouldn't you want to be a Marine? Hey, let me go through combat and then be shot in this little milk jug for an assault. I mean, it's a cool kind of, infiltration, capture idea, but, yeah.
It's a neat idea, and at the time, everyone's thought was the next big thing is going to be a game that mixes Wing Commander and Doom.
Colonel, I'll be done here in 60 seconds.
By the way, if you fire the MIPs while the first wave is still active, he needs 3 minutes. If you do it after clearing out all the turrets, he just needs 60 seconds. There's a lot of in-mission scripted variety in this game. What are you doing, buddy?
Looking up at your good old Stormfire.
That was a fun... That shot felt like it could have been in those gun camera footage.
Yeah, that was pretty good. It did look like that, yeah.
Who's shooting at who? Oh, it's my turret shooting at the space anus.
Oh,
we're launching the pods. Come and get us before this place goes.
Here we go.
How do you pick up the pod? Do you have to tractor them?
Yeah, you have to do your turret.
Oh, I totally forgot about this.
Yep, because there they go. We can see them on the screen. They're blasting up, and they go up. They give you some space at least.
Mission complete.
Oh, the space anus has exploded.
Let's see. This was always a pain.
Is a pain? Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's too slightly closer. And again, it's just.
Oh, I guess
there we go.
Oh, makes it once you under 100 meters. Oh, now it doesn't care.
Now it works.
Now it doesn't care. Yeah. So I mean, trying to track beam stuff that you destroy from stuff from privateer is sometimes.
At least in privateer, you can fly right through it. So you get it ahead of you, fly through it, and then it'll be directly behind you. Surely there would have been a way to get 3 men down there that was easier than that. But.
Yeah. Maybe an assault shuttle. If only they had assault shuttles with, you know, suppression
Colonel,
weapons.
we've got an urgent situation. Intelligence reports
What?
an extraordinary confed ship in your vicinity with a top secret cargo that could be highly critical
What
to our
could it
efforts.
be?
It's imperative that you disable and take control of this vessel. Repeat, disable. Do not destroy it. We need what's on that ship.
I remember
All right,
that
I'm downloading the new nav
February
point
day in
also,
1996.
that Circean web data, it contained confed IFF codes. Should I download those to you now, sir?
Yeah, why not?
Sounds like a good idea, Cersei.
Yeah, sure.
Download IFF codes.
That's one of those things where they obviously plan for that to do something more than it does. There's a couple features like that. Okay, so
Yes.
I can get up close to these guys now. Another hack you can see is my missiles have reloaded as I left the planet because this is technically another mission.
Yep. Yeah, this would be 3 altogether.
I remember being so excited when he said there was an extraordinary cap ship. He just says it in such a way that you're like, oh my god, what is it?
Yeah. Oh, I see Captain Johnny has dropped in.
And we're gonna fire.
Oh, I thought you were going to get a close-up view of the, Evansville?
No, I'm gonna let it survive, so it's fine.
Right, also now it labels it as well, too.
But it should call it a lance, technically.
Look at the size of that. 40 meters, huh?
What happened to this ship? Why is it damaged? Oh, my missiles hit it?
I don't think so. I think it might have been fire.
Oh, my turret. My turret is wet.
Oh, you're... Rodriguez, calm down.
Fire's in there, boss.
Oh, yeah, this.
So you gotta do this too, yep. Although it's nice how when you target a capital ship, the leech percentage is told to you, except when you fire on fighters, or if you do the Spiridon missions, you need to disable the Bearcats. It's a real pain, because you don't know how much you've done to it.
We're in, boss. Just keep those bogeys away from me while I do my thing.
Oh, jeez. All these... with their quasi-carrier, I guess.
Yeah, the cloak couldn't save him.
Your cloak cannot save you now. Especially with that gigantic target.
We're in control here.
That fighter is so big.
Looks like we just bagged something very special, boss.
Why, that ship seemed like it was 40 meters
Mission
long.
complete.
Yeah, gotta love how 3 Marines can take on an entire capital ship, bro.
I wanted to show you guys the capital ship next. Okay.
There we go.
Do I have to pick up these jerks again?
I think so.
This is one of the little-known capital ships there in Wing Commander. It's the Evansville-class transport, which I named myself in Marina. It has no name in this game.
Yep. It's hybrid carrier transport, right?
It's a fighter transport, I think.
Yeah.
Similar to the TCS Morgan on Wing Commander Academy. Was I supposed to have picked up those MIPs?
I don't know.
I'm getting the victory music. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. We're not playing.
I need clearance to land.
Clearance, Colonel.
Hey.
We're shuttling pilots out to collect what's in
Oh, I
that
gotta love
capsule.
that too, right? We got the aces. Nothing like a Banshee H doing some combat air patrol. Yeah.
Space headset off.
Yep.
All right. Oh, here's this scene right here. So this
That's right.
this prop is actually in the office at Cloud Imperium in Austin. It looks like it's the hull of a spaceship, but it's looking up into a dragon.
Where we have pliers. This is how you test weapons in the field, right? Nothing like dropping warheads.
I believe that was an insert that they shot later on. Him actually reaching up, which is probably why that ended up in Austin.
I wonder where the flash pack is.
Who knows? Well, that is some Wing Commander 4.
Double gameplay this week. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if have we ever done 2 games?
No.
Oh,
so next
big
3.
Whoa! Let's not get crazy.
No, I wanted to show that we could do both 320x200 and 640x480.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, we've been learning a lot about resolutions in the past.
Mm-hmm. Well, next part of our show is called the Cargo Bay. Ah!
Wait, where's your graphic?
Oh, you want this thing?
Yeah, you gotta have the cargo bay. I mean, this is what we need, right? What has been dragged into Loaf's front door this week?
Well, let's find out.
It's always a mystery. I'm not even told.
So it's in the script.
Now, I know, but I don't look at it. I don't want to know.
Professionals all. So I collect Wing Commander stuff and
everything.
This is where I share it with you. Folks around the world are always sending us stuff. I'm always on eBay, so there's always a couple of interesting trinkets and whatever to show each week, and this is the part of the show where that happens.
That's right. It's a strange day if I come over and there's not a package at the door, or just recently brought in. Or as I'm leaving, like on Tuesday, there was a package that came somehow late that night that I had.
So first up, this is an issue of Computer Game Strategy Plus, a magazine that once existed. They did a cover story on Privateer 3 in 1998, which must be one of those embarrassing moments in the history of games marketing things, because the game was canceled less than a month later.
Ouch.
And Origin had to... Everybody was so excited, and Origin canceled it less than a month later after giving them an exclusive cover about it. So I imagine no one at the magazine was happy with Origin. No one in the Wing Commander community was happy with Origin. Anyway, I happen to have an eBay watch for this because I want a new copy of the Privateer article. I have not found yet. But I noticed that this one that showed up listed, it says it has hints and tips for Wing Commander Armada.
What's it got?
Well, show that to them.
Oh, this...
It turns out it is not so much hints and tips for playing Wing Commander Armada as it is for connecting your modem. So if you look at these 2 pages of text...
Look at that.
By the way, look at his contacts. It's like Lord British, Trip Hawkins.
That's like the most names that's ever been populated one of those lists ever. I don't even think we've never looked at that screen because we don't connect that way.
No, you no longer use your phone line for Wing Commander Armada. But anyway, there's like 2 paragraphs at the end. They're like, consider building heavy fighters, and the rest is troubleshooting your modem.
The most effective strategy I found is to build a transport on your very first move while simultaneously sending your 2 scout ships and carrier to 3 separate locations. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, reading this... Oh, man, this guy loves transports. It mentions the transport over and over and over again.
Which is odd, because who loves transports in that game?
Heavy fighters are crucial because of the disproportionate... I once encountered 417 Dralthies to my 33 Banshees. Yeah, you clearly were playing the computer cranked all the way up, where it cheats. And cheats. And lastly, have fun.
So next up, we have...
I don't want to read that anymore.
Yeah, no, let's have them watch us read the article.
Yeah, no, I don't want to read anything about connections. What is this?
This, one tip for Earthspawn collectors is look at regular games you've had before and see what stuff people shoved in the box.
Yep.
Because back in the day, people often like, oh, a receipt or some bit of extra stuff or whatever. They would just put it in the box for the game. It was a convenient way to store it. And today you can find interesting stuff. I bought a copy of Wing Commander 1 and 2. It looked like it was an ordinary Wing 1 and 2, as you would find anywhere. Paid about $50 for it because I noticed this. What this is
this?
That is the unfolded tent card for a Wing Commander 1 demo station.
Ooh.
So if you'd gone to a software store, a Babbage's or an Egghead or something in 1990, they would run they would have a computer there that would run the Wing Commander 1 rolling demo, which was just nothing. It's not playable demo like we think of today. It's literally showing you what's in the game with sort of a video rendered by the game engine, essentially. It came on two 5 1/4 inch discs, and
one 5 1/4, 2 3.5.
No, 2 3.5. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that's the card that they would have sent them from marketing to stick on the table next to the thing running the game. In addition to that, inside the box, after getting it, I was incredibly happy because first of all, there is this is the original shipping label for Secret Missions. Not the box Secret Missions, but the envelope Secret Missions. When Secret Missions 1 first came out, show that to the folks. When Secret Missions first came out, it was it was not a box release. It was an envelope that you ordered from Origin, and it was the pre-sales of this original release came out in December 1990. Pre-sales of this that convinced them to do a retail release in the little thin box we're familiar with. So the absolute rarest Secret Missions is the little envelope one. I was lucky earlier this year to finally get my hands on one after 20-something years.
This is kind of weird to me. Mm-hmm. I know where this is in Londonderry. This is 2 towns from my hometown in New Hampshire.
That's where Origin was from.
Interesting, in Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Yeah, we associate Origin Systems with Austin, Texas, but it was incorporated in New Hampshire, which was where Richard Carrier was at the time. And they still maintained a business address there in the early 90s. No Wing Commander development was done there. Huh. But it was a lot of the early stuff, Ultima 3 and 4. I can't even remember. My mind is blank now. Mobius and Ring Quest and so on. All went through the New Hampshire office.
That's interesting. I've probably driven down that road. It seems very, very familiar. I'm trying to remember where it is exactly.
I've tried to find it on Google Images, and it seems like it might be a Chinese restaurant now. But
I will look very quickly.
The really exciting thing that I did not expect, that I was super happy about because it fills a hole in my collection, is this, buddy.
Oh my god, I know exactly what this is.
This is originally Secret Missions was supposed to ship at the same time as.
What is this?
Oh, video. It says video output low. Well, let us know if you're having some video trouble. YouTube is giving us a message saying the output is low.
My screen seems okay-ish. Okay. What has happened?
Well, we'll just watch for it. Their reader seems to pick up on errors.
I noticed it a second ago. I don't know if it... I tried reloading mine. Let's see. Oh, yeah. No.
Just troubleshooting some stream issues here.
Let's see. What is happening to us?
Oh, did we get kicked offline some way?
Maybe? Horrible. Damn it. Well, I mean, no, mine's still going.
Nope.
Did we kick something?
Wait, we might be coming back online now.
Let's see. Oh,
there we go. Stream is healthy again. Hey! Well, hopefully everyone's still there. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was local, not us. We didn't do that.
Helicopters or something of that nature.
This is good enough for government work?
Good enough for government work.
Good enough.
We learned last time.
Yes. As we learned last time. Where were we?
The very exciting thing to me is that this...
That broke the internet.
Yeah, it was so exciting. Everyone wanted to see this. This is the...
What are you doing? I'll use the big screen. We work on
That's
this.
what you're there for.
That's what I'm here for.
Secret
Wing
Missions
Commandering
was originally supposed to ship at the same time as the original Wing Commander, and it was delayed 3 months.
Should be shipping out to you by Thanksgiving. I like how it's italicized.
It came out in December eventually. So they sent to everybody who had pre-ordered one, as according to that slip this fellow did, a postcard that this is the Wing Commander Secret Missions update. It has this little blurb, and it ends with perhaps the greatest sign-off in the history of
we're
messaging.
again. What is it?
We're still green. It's just,
I know, it's still green. It just goes. Yeah, audio sync is distracting. Yeah, we're not sure. It's not. It's FiOS is being crappy. It seems. Oh, what? Oh, that's you reloading it. Yeah, I think we're.
Try it now.
I think we should be okay now. Apparently FiOS is being weird. Because we're.
I think this is external to us. Everything's checking out here.
Yeah, we all look good. So.
I look great.
Fantastic, actually. Oh.
Happy Wing Commander. Happy Wing Commanding.
Well, one day I'll figure out how my hands and this camera work, right? It's always tough, even when we're looking at ourselves. All right, what else?
Well, the only other thing I want to show off today is this guy. We talked about this last time.
That's right.
It appears in the Wing Commander movie.
That's right.
And I figured I needed to try it.
This is the customizer.
Yes, this is the Virtual Pilot Pro Yoke. Which for the Wing Commander movie, when they needed a broadsword joystick, they took one of these and spray painted it black. So I saw that and I was like, we gotta do a segment on that. So I grabbed one cheap on eBay, and we're gonna fly a broadsword with an actual broadsword controller.
That's right. Fly the best. I have a debate because I love how the images, of course, everybody gets excited about flying a private jet.
I have to confess that when I was a kid and I was into flight sims, I was into the the Battle of Britain, Battlehawks 1941, the Lucas stuff.
Yep.
And my mom wanted to get me a fancy flight controller. She got me the non-pro version of that. So I actually flew with a yoke when I was like 9 years old.
I always knew you were a yoke.
It's a weird way to play a game. But
I'll be here
it's
all
fun.
the time.
Instead of pitching up and down like you do with a joystick, you pull in and out, and it'd be a good workout.
I can imagine until we break it in a rage or something. I'm curious to see. I've never actually played with the yoke. Small talk.
Back to small talk. So next up is our Wing Commander Book Club.
Yes.
And if you would like to join to chat about the first 4 chapters of End Run, you can do so through the
our Discord.
Our Discord link is at wcnews.com. Just pop into the Wing Commander Book Club voice channel.
Yep.
Where we all are now. I imagine that this is going to be a little bit of a audio mess as we get it working. We had it working earlier.
Yeah, but
I feel like we're going to screw it up somehow.
I have a funny, I'd say knock on the Kilrathi. We'll hope.
It's our book club. We need our headphones for this.
So I hear myself, so that's good. Oh, I need to. I remember this from last time. Mute the YouTube because I don't want to hear it.
Oh, and I am going to deafen.
There we go.
Hey, everybody. Anybody in the book club chat?
Check in.
Hello, everyone.
There we go.
All right.
Perfect. So far.
We'll have to see if other people here are... Hey, everybody. Welcome to the very first official edition of Wing Commander Book Club. We did Milk Run as a... Milk Run for
as
this
a Milk Run.
But we're starting with End Run proper, and we're going to be talking about the first 4 chapters.
Yep. Of this.
Yes.
And this is my wonderful copy.
Here's my copy. Here's the copy in German.
Uh-huh.
Here's the copy in Czech.
Yep.
And of course, Russian.
Dark Sentinel's copy.
Yeah, we can't enjoy The Adventures of Jason Bear Bondarevsky without a Russian copy.
What do you mean, Bonevsky?
Bonesky?
Bonavensky?
Bondarvarsky?
Who?
Bonevsky.
Hey! Rosengardner. Rosengardner? Yeah, he knows Rookie of the Year.
So,
how How should we start?
Yeah, I'll introduce the book if that makes sense.
I think we would all agree.
So, Wing Commander and Run, the second Wing Commander novel, written by William Forstchen, who at this time was something of an unknown. He has since gone on to, I don't necessarily want to say great things, but interesting things. At the time, he was a newly minted history professor. He had just received his doctorate from Purdue, and he had before that been a primary school teacher, and he wrote trashy sci-fi novels. And I say trashy, and it sounds bad, but I mean trashy sci-fi novels. He did like
series trashy was last week.
Super pulpy. You like your sci-fi with pulp. That's Bill Forstchen for you. With a military bent. He did a series of novels on this ice planet. That was his first book out. Around the time he did the Wing Commander books and was kind of locked in as the voice of Wing Commander for the novels at that point. They'd done a first book with Ellen Guan and Mercedes Lackey, and they did one that's very similar to the game, but Bill's stuff, it's super military history oriented. It's basically take a bunch of chunks from history, rub the edges off,
only I had known this.
And then it's a sci-fi story.
Yeah.
And that spoke to the 16-year-old boy and all of us who were 16-year-old boys at the time.
Yes.
Because, well, obviously there are very serious real-world ramifications of loving war that way. Basically, his politics are he's very hard right conservative, and that seemed cool at the time. It does not show. I mean, it shows much more in the idea of in the '90s idea that you have to support the troops, you have to believe in the military, and so on. Those civilian government, those Clintons are causing.
They're President Rob.
They're gonna send all the budget to curing druggies instead of fighting our enemies, that sort of thing, and that gets basted on further as the series goes, and I would say personally it's something to watch for, because you don't want it's interesting. I'll say it's interesting, which is my catch-all for everything. But
yeah,
one side effect of that was that it was incredibly appealing to people who like space war games like us.
I always like this one over Fleet Action, even though Fleet Action has more of the big battles.
And so Bill Forstchen eventually he did six. He either authored or co-authored 6 of the Wing Commander books, and then he went on to much bigger things. He partnered with Newt Gingrich, who was Speaker of the House at the time. They did several different series of alternate history novels. The old What if the Germans won World War II? What if Lee won Gettysburg? Yeah. And they're really fun books. Interesting stuff. Of late, he has done more kind of scaremongering. The Chinese are going to drop an EMP on us, and we need to be prepared. Get all your survivalist stuff, and it's not my taste, but it's a thing.
I guess it makes money.
But End Run is actually pretty separate from most of that, other than the hey, the troops are great sense, which is what you want in the story about troops. So End Run we're not going to see a whole lot of that in End Run, but we are going to see a lot of military history.
Yep.
We talked about Milk Run the last time we had a book club, and Milk Run, written by a liberal arts major English professor type, and it's full of poetry and allusions and double meanings and terrible jokes and one brief moment of horniness.
Yes.
We have not. We do not have that in End Run.
Nope. If you want to learn about that, you can dip back into our past shows and see how we were learning things.
There's a lot less poetry in this one.
There is.
Yes. Zero.
And as part of, I figure we'll first start with the first 4 chapters.
Yep.
End Run takes characters from the Wing Commander games who were essentially spun off to it at the end of Special Operations 1. In fact, it creates the main character, Jason Bodlarevsky, who is our bear, who is our... if you play Special Operations 1, he is the pilot who bravely refuses to fire on Kilrathi civilians, and there's a mutiny on his ship, and you have to rescue him and bring him back to the fold, and So the idea is that Admiral Tallwin then is really impressed with what he did because of his morality, not matched with the Admiral Tallwin we will know later on, but his star is rising because of that. He's risen up through the ranks in the last year. He's now a wing commander himself, and he's been assigned 25.
Sorry.
And he has been assigned to a new kind of carrier. And normally when you hear a new kind of carrier in science fiction, that means an even bigger dreadnought. It has,
more guns.
It has guns inside guns, but not in this case.
With flight decks inside the flight decks.
This is an escort carrier, or CVE, based on the escort carriers and light carriers of World War II. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
We'll get that.
And so it's kind of like Star Wing Commander 3, where he has been assigned to this sort of junky trash ship with totally new pilots and a couple favorites from the series that have been spun off to us, including Doomsday, Sparks, the mechanic from Wing Commander 2. I feel like there's a third one I'm forgetting.
No, I think there's probably... Tolwin is a product of Tolwin.
Kevin Tolwin is one of the upstart kids just out of the academy. It's Admiral Tolwin's nephew, and the captain of the ship, Captain O'Brien, is this incompetent. He's not a military man. He's a freighter captain who has been promoted beyond his means.
Trying to get he wants to get his one combat tag in his folder so that he can continue to rise, saying, "Well, I served on the line."
Yeah, and one thing you'll find in Bill's books is a lot. When he doesn't like somebody, you can tell.
Yeah, there's no subtlety to it. There's no gray, really. It's just black and white.
So he gets assigned to be the wing commander of this escort carrier, and the first chapter is that. The second chapter is him starting to train the new pilots. One of them is killed in an accident, and he has to do the old Captain Pike style. Did I kill that man? Is this my fault? A little moral spin. I
just started thinking about that because when he describes that crash too, it's when it hits the deck. It reminds me there's a famous, I should have thought this before, a famous crash of a jet. They use the same footage in Hunt for Red October where it smashes the end of the flight deck.
Ah.
I wonder if that's probably where it's from.
Well, when a ship in Wing Commander smashes the flight deck, they can just push it off the side.
Yeah, that's right. Your space bulldozer.
So third chapter is they're now escorting 9 regiments of Marines to a space station for training, for drop training. And this is one of those things in science fiction where you say drop, you immediately... He doesn't say it, but they're Starship Troopers. You've read that book, and that's what that means. Bear finds out that coincidence, his ex-girlfriend Svetlana, who had been a pilot herself and was kicked out of the training academy because she wasn't good at jump physics, science, and she is now the comm officer for this Marine Commando Battalion, 1st Marine, the Cat Killers, and Bear goes over to see her, hey, how's it going? You want a space flicks and chill sort of thing, and she reveals to him the classified nature of their mission because she says, the captain's being briefed right now. You're finding out we're changing direction. This convoy is going behind enemy lines. We're going to take over this Korathi planet, Vukar Tag. And if you remember Melkron, that's the planet they discovered there. The Corvette went and they discovered this mysterious Korathi planet, and it's something so important. They have a cruiser guarding it in a space station, and it's got this fairy tale castle on the ground. And that's the connection between these two books. We now find we're going to go to this planet now. Instead of with a recon corvette, we now have a fleet of.
We got a nice assault group here.
Yeah, a fleet of transports and
2 escort carriers.
Yeah. And then chapter 4, we actually is the amphibious assault on the planet. Which this is where I think every Wing Commander fan in the world fell in love with these novels.
Yeah,
because he describes in glorious detail,
high yield explosive detail.
There's so much to love about these. You hear how carrier landings and takeoffs work, how they get to the planet, all the places the regiments land, the technology they use. So
constant explosions, missiles.
It's a by the numbers attack on the Korathi planet. Marines land. There's fighting. The battle ends with Kevin Tolwin is accidentally responsible. He's supposed to be escorting a damaged saber back to the carrier, which is called the Tarawa, and he gets distracted by an enemy fighter, and the saber is shot down. And that's starting off his character arc, because before this he was this invulnerable rich kid, and now he's realized he's bleeped up, and he's
grounded. I just realized I forgot my Tarawa hat.
Oh yeah,
I was just looking. I thought for a second, I'm like, did I leave it here? Then no, I did not. Next time for the next book club, I'll make sure to bring my First to Kill Raw hat.
So I was going to start our book club by showing up some of the ships that are used in the game. Bill Forstchen he did not actually play the games. He based these on a series Bible that Origin created. A later version of that is available at WC News. But as a result, it heavily uses all the ships from Wing Commander 1 and 2.
Yep.
The Tarawa's fighter wing is a squadron of ferrets, commanded by Starlight, who's a new character.
Yep.
A squadron of rapiers, commanded by Bear himself. Mm-hmm. And a squadron of sabers, commanded by
Hey guys.
Doomsday. Hey. We're not going to survive.
You guys want to go bomb something today?
And they are a new kind of saber. The sabers in Wing Commander 2 were the F-57A. This is the F-57B, which adds a Rio weapons operator crammed in back of the pilot's seat, and that'll come up throughout the novel later on. Also to note, there's a bit of an error when he's listing out the ships, and they give the designation F-54 instead of 44 for the Rapier, which is actually the Epi. And I've always wondered if it was originally supposed to be that it has Epis instead of Rapiers, because they're both the medium fighter from Wing Commander 2. And I guess there's no way. Yeah, it would suck. The
really
Rapiers are much cooler.
Like hearing about Rapiers. Epis, you don't want that.
So those are our hero ships.
Because we all know what happens when you're an Epi, right? Your women shoot you in the back constantly.
We're going to see Marine landing craft. Each carries 100 Marines. Wing Commander's Secret Missions 2 establishes that those are essentially just Draymen. So there's the Drayman from Wing Commander 1. Yeah. On the Kilrathi side, he uses a bunch of familiar designs, but light fighters for this initial battle. There's a, quote, old-style Salthy, which is, at the time, felt like a really cool nod. Like, he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Salthy, that's the old ship from Wing Commander 1. Wing Commander 1 is older than Wing Commander 2. That makes sense.
Definitely does.
We see Sartha and Drakri. We hear at one point that the engine of the Tarawa is from a Gilgamesh destroyer. There's a Gilgamesh destroyer. There is the Gettysburg, which is referenced throughout because this was Bear's former ship where there's a mutiny.
Dirty business.
Yeah, everybody kind of throws shade at him because he was involved in this mutiny, even though Admiral Tallwyn believes in him and he's really a good guy. But everybody's like, I don't know about that. And then the Concordia itself, which gets referenced a couple times.
Smacked around a bit.
The broadsword also referenced, but does not appear.
Not till later.
So those are our ships. Just share some locations again. This is the Kilrathi Palace as it appears in the Kilrathi Saga manual. As we said last time, this is reused art from Wing Commander 3. So it's Wing Commander 3 concept art that got repurposed as the Fairy Tale Castle for an article in the Kilrathi Saga manual. There's the Ring Nebula. It turns out it's a real thing. There's some point where he grounds Kevin Tallwyn, and he's like, "But I'm going to give your ship to who was shot up," and Tallwyn's like, "But she's a terrible pilot," and he replies like, "Well, I don't care if she couldn't fly through the Ring Nebula.
I don't give a damn if she couldn't fly through the middle of the Ring Nebula with her eyes open."
Which, one of those super spacey, futuristic insults, yeah. And I just wanted to go through these real quick just to get the mood. These are the Concordia interiors from Wing Commander 2.
Spacious compared to what we will be describing on the Tarawa.
But, in your mind's eye, you're surely imagining something similar but more 100%. Cramped.
I definitely, when I was thinking, you think of the ship on the cover of the book, right? And then you put all these images in there and you think... Yeah.
By the way, classic Wing Commander cover error right there. Wing Commander 2 has the Concordia on the front, and you see the number is not 65. It's like 8 or something on the Concordia. So this one, they make such a point of the fact that this is one of 9 ships, and it's CVE 12. It's the wrong hull number, basically.
That's for the next group,
which is something of a tradition in Wing Commander.
Hey, if you're going to do it wrong, do it right. Right?
And I'm still snapping through these different...
Look at all these.
The O deck, the repair deck. Yeah. And since we end Chapter 4 with Prince Straka reacting to the battle, here's his flagship.
Yeah.
So there's some sets for you to imagine as you read the book.
Yep.
And since, unlike the previous novel, we have actual Wing Commander characters who are brought back into this, we can show you some of the folks. Here's Bear from Special Operations 1.
Look at that hair.
That's something.
That is.
Doomsday from Wing Commander 2.
Hey, guys.
Sparks, our new CPO on the Tarawa. Maniac, who gets referenced at one point. There's, I think it's at the very start of Chapter 1 where Maniac is making fun of the escort carriers.
Yeah.
Because, of course, this is after Special Operations 2, so Maniac is assigned to the Concordia, apparently. And Tallinn, who is orchestrating all this.
Yeah.
And before we started, I asked some of our panelists, and I will ask everyone else,
titled.
Any particular actors you imagine when thinking of the characters in this book?
Yep.
And we can start. Oh, no, there's Prince Straka. I forgot about Prince Straka.
And the Emperor.
And the Emperor. So, we can go with Liha first. Are you out there, Liha?
Oh, you're going to throw me right under the bus, is that it?
Right under the bus.
I didn't know we were coming in hot like this.
Yeah,
huh?
we're going right into casting for Kevin Tallinn.
I hate to say I went the cheap route. I went for a young Malcolm McDowell.
And you say the cheap route, but none of the rest of us thought of this.
Yeah, no, it never even crossed my mind.
My initial reaction was, oh, that's the obvious choice. But then I was like, well, I didn't think of that.
That is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Well, it is the obvious answer, and it's probably just because, after so many years of seeing him play Tolwyn, that it was like, oh, it's Tolwyn's nephew, and should look like Tolwyn. Okay, it's young Malcolm McDowell.
Makes sense.
Certainly.
And then we have this choice from, I think, Trelane. It's, what's his name?
So we forgot about the delay.
Val Kilmer, yes.
It's the delay. I'll make sure to.
I was just thinking, he's this young, cocky kid, and recently, Dundredal was watching Real Genius.
Yeah, so 2 days ago.
Kind of on my brain, and like that character in that movie, like it just kind of reminds me so much of Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a good movie.
And
it is ridiculous. Yeah, I love Toxic Waste.
And here's the cheat. This was my choice for Kevin Tallinn, which I got to canonically make when I did the Wing Commander Arena manual.
Yep.
I looked at the extra pilot profiles from Wing Commander 2 that appear in the background, which is also where Bear came from. So that was my logic there. And I took this fellow who seemed like he was the most Kevin Tallinn.
He does seem very debonair.
That's now canonically Kevin Tallinn. But you can be forgiven for no one knowing that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
okay, let's talk about O'Brien.
I'm glad you didn't put in my choices.
I did put in your thing. This is your thing.
Oh, Jesus.
Obviously, everyone thought of Chief O'Brien, although he's in no way the person, our hardworking Chief of Operations is in no way Commodore Thaddeus O'Brien, the fanciest alcoholic carrier admiral in the fleet.
God, don't give him a promotion or anything. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
this is Liha's choice for O'Brien.
Yeah. I totally forget the actor's name now that I did not pull it up. It's the guy who played General Oramov in GoldenEye.
Hold on, I will scroll through.
Yeah. Just a character actor, and he's got this 1940s, 1950s actor's face, and he just seems like somebody, probably because he's in a military in GoldenEye, but also I had seen him in other roles, and he kind of always plays this guy that's in over his head type of role, even in comedies or in serious roles, and the fact that, in the book, O'Brien's a bit of a drinker, and he's he doesn't want the role that he's given, he just wants to kind of, I don't want to say milk run, but he just kind of wants a job and to get the stripes on his uniform and keep going.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of cowardice that lends to that actor what I've seen him in.
All right. And here was my choice, which is where I'm pretty sure he lifted O'Brien from. James Cagney in the movie Mr. Roberts. He's the... Yeah, it's literally him.
Yeah.
He's the captain of this transport ship, and he's just a tin pot dictator, and he's terrible to all our cool main characters. Yeah. All right. Oh, and
this was my choice.
This was your choice. Yes.
Yeah, Stephen Root. I don't know. It just looks like him.
Okay.
He seems like I was trying to think of some of his people he's played in the past, and
you think like a Jimmy James type.
Yeah, I was thinking that, or I guess Man in the High Castle. Yeah. That's where I thought the picture of him came from. But yeah, I don't know. Just the description kind of fits. He's got the nose, right, the receding hairline, things like that.
All right, and now we have Svetlana. This is Trelane's choice.
So yeah, Svetlana. I mainly just went by the description in the book. I believe he said strawberry blonde hair. So I mean that's not strawberry, but the short blonde hair, and I don't know. I can just see her in that role. Yeah.
Charlize Theron is the person, in case for some reason you're just listening.
The other one, it's funny. As I was looking for pictures, was I'm blanking. Rhea. Oh,
the lady from Better Call Saul. Yeah,
Rhea Seehorn. It actually looks almost exactly.
Yeah, they could be interchangeable. Yeah, they really could.
So, but yeah, I mean, I just saw either of them in that role. Strong features, blonde hair, and I could actually see either of them in like an action role if they put their.
And here is Leha's choice, which I think is fantastic. I think this works really well.
Yeah, Emily Blunt, specifically because of her role in, I think it was called Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise Groundhog's Day.
Or was it called one of 6 other things?
Yeah, I don't. It was so confusing. It's a good movie.
Edge of Tomorrow is the real name. I stick to that.
A tough soldier in it, and I think that. Considering the way her character seems, especially when she's one-on-one talking to Jason, how she kind of comes off as a little harder than maybe she means to, that really kind of lent itself to Emily Blunt's character in the film. So my mind just kind of went in that direction.
Yeah, and I think you kind of immediately want to assume that... I mean, you hear Ivanova as her last name, and you think Ivanova from Babylon 5. I don't think it quite fits in terms of the character. And it's interesting thinking of her compared to the female lieutenant commander in Milk Run, because on the surface you kind of put the same framework for them in your head, but Svetlana is a true talented badass who actually knows what she's doing and is a good Marine, whereas the lady in Milk Run, Ramona, is in over her head. But I remember thinking they were interchangeable for a while. Probably at the time. I gave it to Angelina Jolie, but I didn't have a picture of her. All right, which again does not match the description, the short, crop, strawberry blonde hair, but the attitude, I don't need you, I'm a Marine now.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about End Run. The beginning thoughts. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let's go around the room. Chris Reed, you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. I think it's... I mean, you nailed it when you were talking about the battle, the landing party and everything. Like, it's hard not to love End Run.
But one thing that Bill does so well is he's so good at creating a world with just a sentence, and it seems, it goes by and you don't even think about it, and then later it connects. Like there's a point during that landing where they just mention that Bear looks out the side window and he sees that Marine weapons landers are arriving at the planet, quote, disgorging their massive walkers, which carry the armament of a light corvette. He's literally given us AT-ATs.
Yeah.
In Wing Commander, which is not something we've ever had before. And they're a single sentence. He's very good at building out a world in that way. He does it kind of throughout. He'll take bits from history or anything.
He'll take gigantic chunks from history.
But just the idea of, Wing Commander wasn't purely World War II at the time, but now he's coming with like the transport construction stations and the gold stars and blue stars and windows back home. He's bringing in all this stuff from his world and mixing it into Wing Commander, and we couldn't be happier.
It's great. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, I felt like you did a great job of just filling in the blanks, because what you see in the game, it's really just like flying the missions, shooting ships, and there's the plot in between, but you only see so much of it, and he did just a great job of just fleshing it out, giving it some more depth. And as I was reading it this time, I was actually, Loaf, you mentioned that they gave him the Bible, but I was actually thinking, like, did he play the games? Like, I can't picture him playing the games, but it really felt like he did. So he did a great job of just kind of making it come alive.
Yeah. It did, and I believe he said in interviews he did not play the games. He had, I think his kid neighbor came over and showed them to him for like 20 minutes or something, and everything else is based in the Bible. And I'm glad you mentioned the Bible, because I've got a couple of things I'd like to point out about it.
Please.
There is one reference, and this is something that's kind of interesting, because he has all these things that reference the Bible that were never actually anywhere else in Wing Commander. So, for instance, do you remember early in the story, he mentions something happened on the Concordia, but Phoenix and his wingmate from a nearby base were able to come and save the day. And that immediately sounds like it was a bomb. The flight decks was taken out, and so Phoenix and his wingmate had to come and save the day. And that certainly sounds like Wing Commander 2, the start of Wing Commander 2. But who's Phoenix? What is he just deciding that Blair's call sign is Phoenix? What is that? And the answer is that the character descriptions in that 1992 Bible for Blair specifies that after the events of Wing Commander 1, when he comes back to the Concordia, he changes his call sign to Phoenix, because he's a phoenix rising from the ashes. And that is it's a bit of lore that is never picked up anywhere else, but Bill Forstchen, who just has this Bible to rely on, he doesn't have the larger Wing Commander universe, assumes that's a Wing Commander thing. So that's why that's in there. We talked about the physics earlier in this program, where the Wing Commander physics stuff. This like 6 or 7 page Wing Commander physics docs that show how jump points work and how ships work, how a ship goes from point to point and so on. And it has all these concepts like ram scoops that open or close, and when a ship's scoops are closed, it continues forward at a certain momentum. And there's all these ideas that Endrun introduced the Wing Commander community to, that we were like, oh, we figured out, we saw the mirror of the mirror. And we're like, oh, okay, that's how ships in Wing Commander get from nav point to nav point quickly. They close their scoops and they go at 10,000 kps, but they can't maneuver when they're like that. And he talks about that throughout at least 2 of these 4 chapters. And when you go back to the Bible, we'll link to it later, you can see that that's all taken straight from it, because they had come up with this world building that said how the ships are supposed to work, but it was never relevant for the game itself, so it never showed up in continuity.
No, but then you immediately, started assigning to things, right? You see in Wing Commander 3 and 4, the engine scoops, you think, oh, those are the ram scoops. Yeah, that's where they're going to come from. Of course that's where they're there.
Exactly.
And it makes everything pop to life. Definitely.
Yeah, so it's... but of course, one of the big things about Bill Forstchen is history. He's a history professor. He specifically focusing on the Civil War at this time. He has another novel that came out around the same time that was a big series that was called The Lost Regiment. That is, what if a Civil War regiment got taken to space to fight an alien war? and that was a huge success at the time. Again, super pulpy, and any Fortune book you pick up, you're going to find a bunch of similar references. Stuff from Maine. He used to teach in Maine, which we see in this. There's the TCS Bangor is the marine, one of the marine transports. Stuff from Mongolia. He has a particular interest in Mongolia, so you hear references to. There's a pilot named Mongol as one of the background pilots, and I think he just recently spent like several years there studying or something. But you once you know him, you can see he's pulling stuff from the Wing Commander Bible, and he's pulling stuff from his own life and wrapping it up in this really interesting package. There's the deck officer of the Tarawa, who's introduced, I think, in Chapter 2, is named Lyford Beveridge, and that sounds like a ridiculous name.
It really is a ridiculous name.
He explained that he takes names from people he knows. It's a Tuckerization. And I'm friends with him on Facebook, so I go on Facebook, and if I search for Lyford Beveridge, there's his Facebook account, one mutual friend. And Noragami is another one. And both of those names are going to reappear as different characters in different Wing Commander novels. So, that's something to look forward to. But in addition to his life and this Wing Commander Bible he's working from, he also takes stuff, just giant amounts of stuff from history. And luckily we have an actual historian here to talk about it.
Yeah, he clearly only owns, 4 books about the Second World War, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, very clearly.
You know what? We forgot the stupidest part.
Oh, I thought you were building up to that one.
No, let's get this out of the way.
Okay,
last time we had the dumbest literature joke in Wing Commander history with the Xanadu pleasure domes. This time we have the dumbest history joke in Wing Commander. One of the background pilots is, quote, a man named Chamberlain who goes by the call sign Round Top, which is the dumbest Battle of Gettysburg thing you can imagine. Round Top is the hill that Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain held, and at the time was considered the turning point of the battle. But though I guess
fixed bayonets.
Today we look back and we say, okay, well, part of this is just him being a really great self-promoter.
Yeah,
and
read my
after
other
the
books.
War, but
read my other books.
But so that Round Top Chamberlain is where that's from.
Ooh, anyway, he'll stay with us for a while, though. He continues on.
Some of these guys are going to be in several books.
Yep, that's true.
But Dunderdal here has some history stuff to share with us.
That's right, where he's borrowed some of these ideas.
I'm going to make this guy big so you can see him.
Yeah, please. So
what are we looking at right now?
So right now we're looking at an Independence class light carrier. These the United States. What they did is they took 9 Cleveland-class light cruisers out of the production and instead converted them to light carriers because we needed more flight decks early in the war before the Essex class was really starting to get cranked out in huge numbers.
Well, that's interesting because in the novel and run, the Confederation takes 9 heavy transports which were under construction and turns them into escort carriers.
How interesting, right? And it's funny because it's very clear that the 9 escort carriers in the book are actually the Independence class light carriers, because a lot of the same details that actually are in this infographic are mentioned in the early description. Things like, hey, what's that at the front? Is that a quad Bofors gun? Gee, what does he mention about a quad gun on the front?
There's a quad neutron cannon on the bow of the
yeah. Is that, say, a shorter, narrower flight deck? Mm-hmm. Is there a shorter, narrower flight deck on the Tara? I believe so. A cramped command center? Does that say 100,000 horsepower engine that can crank out 32 knots? Where regular escort carriers can only do about 20 because they kept their merchant engines.
In fact, that is the difference between an escort carrier and a light carrier, right? Light carriers have the engines to keep up with.
Yes, they can. They would fall under what we call fast carriers, and that they can keep up with the larger Essex class. And then we start producing what are called fast battleships, which can go over 28 knots to keep up with them as well. We have a regular escort carrier, and we built about almost 100 of them. The Casablanca class, we built 50 of those alone at the Kaiser shipyards, actually out on the Columbia River in Oregon and Washington State. But yeah, he takes this, the Independence class, and then proceeds to make it into our beloved, what later we could call the Wake class escort carriers. And it's a lot of the same things, right? The Independence class, they only carry the Hellcats and actually TBF Avengers. They don't carry any dive bombers in order to the hangars and space for aircraft is a lot smaller, so they have to just use those.
Much like how the Tarawa can't carry broadswords, it has to carry these double sabers.
That's right, yeah. And, you know, he then borrows some of the ideas from the escorts, though, right, where he talks about the missions that the escort carriers will have. Things like escorting convoys, which is exactly what escort carriers did. A big thing is, right, when you're trying to keep aircraft at the front, building them out of crates takes a long time, because first you have to rebuild them, and then you have to test them, which all eats up time that can be devoted to keeping other aircraft in the sky. Where he mentions, right, in the book, that yes, we use these to transport fighters straight from the factories right to the big carriers at the front, so they can keep resupplying their squadrons to keep up the battle. What are the other missions? I'm blanking at the moment. There's escort, it's resupply.
The suicide mission behind enemy lines.
Well, that's not based in reality, right? That one where he incorporates the idea of them doing these high-risk, deep penetration raids. That's not something the United States really, we would never think to send one of our ships on a one-way mission like that. At least we would never design ships with that being one of their stated mission goals, right? What else do we want to go through on these?
I've got some pictures of carrier shipyards and such you sent me.
Right. So we have, right, this is actually a comparison where at the bottom you can see the diminutive size of the escort carriers, and then it goes up. You see the Independence class light carriers, and then a Yorktown class, a Lexington, and then all the way at the top actually has a Midway, which is the last carrier we commissioned during the war, which was actually called a CVB, a battle carrier. It had armored flight deck, things to help it kind of sustain in battle, keep damage, and continue on. And then I think we have a bunch of pictures of, right, this is a picture I love. So what you see here are the 4 major fleet carriers of the United States during the war. At the very, very bottom, that's the Sister Sarah, the USS Saratoga, and then that's the Enterprise in the middle, Essex class, and then an Independence class, which you can really see the difference, right, in the size of these flight decks, where, right, just like the Concordia with that big comfortable deck, you got room to move, you can kind of you have, a little space, where in the Independence, no.
I mean, you can see that's why it was so difficult for Bear to land.
Right? Yeah, and that's also the class of carrier that President George H.W. Bush flew off of. The San Jacinto was a Independence class light carrier. So they often took, some gruff from the guys in the bigger ships because it was the smaller ones. But nonetheless, right, they would often say, it took us more skill to land on. And you can see, right, there's not a lot of room. There's no room for error.
And in fact, in that flashback in the first chapter, we see Maniac giving Bear exactly that guff.
Yep, exactly that. Here is an overhead shot of the Kaiser shipyards, where it's kind of difficult to see, but those are escort carriers being cranked out right next to each other. They use the same slips as they would do for merchant ships, because the escort classes were either based on an oiler design we had pre-war, or a merchant class a modification of a Liberty ship. So Kaiser would literally line these up and just crank them out. So you can see there that there's actually some in the slips, and then there are some tied up along the shore. And that's actually looking down the shore, so you can see those are escort carriers being fitted out, right? Their flight decks being installed, elevators, things of that nature. I looked for so long to try to find a picture of an escort carrier with a merchant ship in the same frame. This is the best I could do. This is South Boston, where if you see right below the word kind of Navy, there's a merchant ship tied on a dock away from all the escort carriers right above it. And you can see, right, you can tell too, we have a ton of these things. I mean, the United States had 151 carriers by the end of the war, the vast majority of which were these smaller escort carriers. Wow. And then here's another shot of the Kaiser shipyards. You can see, right, in different levels of construction, from the one on the left being almost finished to the ones on the right just getting their keels laid and the hulls built up. And then here's another mothball fleet where we have a bunch of escort carriers with some escort ships below them. Right? And then that's just merchant ships to show you the same slips and how they would be cranking them out in the same way, and how fast Kaiser. One of the derivative names, besides in the chat somebody put in, right, CVE is combustible, vulnerable, expendable. They were also called Kaiser coffins because they lacked the armor of other ships because they kept the same merchant gear that the other ones had. Okay.
Well, let's talk about folks' thoughts about End Run. Trelane and Leha, let's hear from you guys.
Yeah, we'll start with the crowd.
So I thought the first chapter was interesting. It starts with Bear flying in, and he's just there's just so much disdain for this ship that he's been assigned to. All he does is point out what's wrong with it. He looks for things dangerous or going to be problems, and it's not, it is with a critical eye, but it's also I know you're not supposed to like O'Brien as a character. He's kind of written as
kind of.
but that conversation he has with Bear, you can tell the guy's proud of what this ship that he helped design. And maybe it's not the best thing in the world, but it's fulfilling a need. The fleet got hit pretty hard in the last few actions, and he helped come up with this thing to fill a gap, and all Bear can do is point out oh, this isn't good, this gun's not going to be good enough,
why isn't this mounted here?
So it's an interesting setting, but I kind of like that it's it kind of also puts Bondarevsky in a negative light as well, I think.
He's a spoiled
I picked up on the same thing, and when I was a kid, I did not. I just knew he was the hero, so everything he does is right.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, he causes exactly the same casualty as Kevin, the next chapter. A saber is destroyed because he's overtraining these guys, and he's just a dick throughout his tour of the ship. Although, of course, all the enlisted men love him, and they're cowering because of their evil captain. But he really is very obnoxious, and does not play. I mean, I think any military officer would these days is part politician. He should be able to play politics better than he is.
Well, right. He's also 25, though.
That's true,
and he's coming from the pride of the fleet. Literally, this is like transferring from the Enterprise during the war, or an Essex, and then by the way, here you are on the Gambier Bay. Have fun. Are you joking right now? Are you really joking? Does this thing have the ice cream machine? Where's the ice cream machine? Right, that's another big deal we'll talk about someday.
And you mentioned O'Brien is proud of the Tarawa, and so are we supposed to be by the end of this book and by many other books. So it's an interesting thing to kind of diss on so early.
But it's also a common kind of trope, though, that, right, your first command, she's often, an ugly ship, but it's the one you love, right? Isn't Picard's first ship kind of meh?
That's Stargazer,
yeah. But he has, the model of it and all that stuff, so I think it's kind of pulling on that same idea a bit.
And what did you think about his character creation? So we've got a couple original characters here, including... Bear is essentially original. He appears in one cutscene in Special Operations 1, and then as a VDU face in two missions. But we also have Starlight. We have O'Brien, of course. We will have Big Duke 1, but we haven't met him yet, other than just mentioning. So how did you think he did with creating new characters and giving them a background?
Who are you asking?
Anybody.
Oh. I was like... I thought we had a plan. Plan went out the window.
I figure it's easiest to throw questions out there and have folks.
I guess as an adult, as a kid, you don't really, you're not smart enough to really start to think about the characters. You just think, ooh, I don't like this guy. He's a jerk and a dick, and I love the hero, and oh, I remember him, and it's ridiculous how there's no nuance, right? O'Brien is a alcoholic Commodore who's just trying to get his combat tag and climb.
I was thinking that too, but I also think there is a little bit of nuance in character building for at least Bear. He gets, the backstory with his brother dying at this planet. There's world building. If it's not nuance, it's like world building through character history. His brother dies defending this outpost that everyone in the novel seems to recognize and we've never heard of before. And all the stuff with Svetlana and her failing the jump physics test, which I have to imagine has to be a reaction to trying to read the jump physics document in the Bible.
Yeah. but then making her father, right, be, a failure by, losing...
Yeah, her father caused the destruction of a carrier. He is so good at spinning a world off from a sentence or a paragraph, In the early days of the war, if Svetlana's father was responsible for the destruction of a carrier, and that's been hidden, so we wouldn't have heard of it now, and that's interesting.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, he does a good job of introducing these new characters and then just kind of giving them... It's almost like just enough that you can kind of connect the dots in your head.
Yeah.
Like Starlight, I think, is a good example. Like, he really doesn't say a whole lot about her. Like I'm looking at it right now. So they met in the academy.
Yep.
She had a crush on him.
Yeah, has a crush.
Yeah. They met back up on the Concordia, apparently. And that's kind of all they really say about her. I mean, she leads the
ferrets.
She's the ferret pilot. Yeah.
Yeah, she does the recons.
Yeah. So she's in charge of the recon, but that's kind of all you know. Like, there's not a whole lot of depth there, and they go on to have these conversations. Doomsday and Starlight Bear together. So there's a little bit of development, but you still don't really know a whole lot about her. But you can kind of picture her in your head, and you kind of know who she is.
Yeah. One character I ended up... It's really interesting how he deals with them. Prince Thrakath. We see Prince Thrakath at the end of Chapter 4 as he gets the news that the Confederation has defiled his grandmother's home. And
which is interesting.
Prince Thrakath gets played a lot of different ways, and especially even the later novels. He's a clownish villain. But here, he's incredibly intelligent. He's someone who would make sense to be the prince of the alien race you've been fighting for 20 years nonstop. Mm-hmm. He knows exactly what's going on. He figures out what the Confederation is doing based on this report. He
thinks what he...
Well, we even have this first introduction of him where he tells his aide he makes his aide go and commit Karathi suicide, and it's just to show us that Prince Thrakath is not, scene-chewing bad guy who's going to make some mistake and everything's bad. He has something of a brain.
Yeah, although it's interesting that when they talk about the end of Chapter 4, how he's analyzing, and he's like, this is an assassination attempt, and what that is that's something that's been spun off the Doolittle raid itself. Mm-hmm. So when the Doolittle raiders attacked Tokyo in April 1942, they were given a very specific order. Do not go anywhere near the Imperial Palace. Don't shoot at it. Don't drop a bomb at it. No matter how badly you want to kill Hirohito, do not do so. Because it will make the Japanese go crazy, and they're going to start fighting harder.
I should note that the dedication to End Run is for Lieutenant General Jimmy Doolittle, who did the first End Run first. Thank you, Godspeed, and safe journey. So it's right there.
Yeah, and during that raid, 7 years ago, I got to meet 5 of the surviving Doolittle raiders, and this question came up about the Imperial Palace, and we said, oh yeah, we were not to go anywhere near it. And one ship, one bomber said, yeah, we flew by it, and they proceeded to flip off and yell obscenities out the window at the Emperor, and that was it. We're right in this book. They're specifically going after this palace on purpose to cause this reaction from Thrakath that how dare you try to kill Grandma.
It's really interesting, too, where it starts with Thrakath, talking to this aide about, his behavior and what he's doing to morale by, running around with this coded message in his hand, and obviously he gets
being a show-off.
But then it almost immediately goes into him just watching this video and just seething with rage, and it's almost like a complete reversal from this cold and calculating guy into this cartoon who's just smashing his fists on the table, getting angry because they're peeing on his palace.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you gotta piss on the palace. Yeah,
which I think goes right back to the Bible again, which has a Karathi xenobiology section, which says that Karathi are ruled by passions in this way, and they have to fight back against that. We see it in fact, it's how Freedom Flight begins. The Karathi Prince Thrakath is torturing Ralga, and they're trying to get him to admit fault by becoming this savage, by going into this savage mode. And I think that's where that comes from. And the idea is Thrakath is able to will it away.
Yeah. One of the things I like to, I guess chapter 4 really does get a lot of love, is the description of first, when he talks about the ground assault, all these heavy weapons, exploding plateaus, and then we have the chase. Which, you're right. Which
it's right out of Independence Day. Before Independence Day was a thing.
Yeah, and I think I probably got the books after I had seen the movie, and that's exactly what I picture. Will Smith flying through the canyons, right, twirling by everything. Can't pop up. Don't want to do that, and smashing in the side, and yeah.
But the difference with Bill Fortune is in that very scene, you also have this larger tactical sense where there's a ferret positioned above reporting positions.
Yeah,
so you see how this would actually work.
And it's one of the ladies who gets marked down earlier, right? They talk about how the reason she's up there is because she hadn't done so well during the training on the way in. Which, I guess this also read earlier. So before we started, Loaf and I were talking, about this, and when I read this for this week, one of the things that kind of smashed me right in the face is that, right, when they take off, it's the Tarawa, and then there's the Sevastopol, which is a sister ship. It's another one of the escort carriers. It's going to be tasked with doing all the space missions, taking out the starbase that's there, and suppressing anything that comes from that way. And as they start talking with Svetlana, White Knight, right, it's Tar leader, Pole leader. As a kid, I was like, those are such weird, like, where the hell is that? Like, whatever, those are... All right. And then, as using your brain, it's Tarawa leader, Sevastopol leader, Tar and Pole. And Ben's like, oh, yes, I also had that same thought. And it's like, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
It's funny what goes over your head as a kid and then seems so obvious as an adult. Right?
So going back from chapter 4, I had a segment that I wanted to share from chapter 3, which I thought it's very different from the rest of the tone of the book, and it's where Bear has arrived at his ex-girlfriend's marine troop ship. He's docked his ferret outside. They talk about how you can't land a ferret you have to dock outside in the new EVA. Yeah. And he steps outside and he takes a moment and he looks at the grandeur of space. And it's whenever you have a war story, I like why is this world worth fighting for? I think it's one of the problems with a lot of war stories these days is they don't bother to spend that season 1 of Babylon 5 introducing you to the world that you have to care about. Mm-hmm. So like this first season of Star Trek Discovery, there's a war, but who cares? We're not in this world. It doesn't mean anything to us. We don't see what we're losing or what we're gaining by fighting this.
Yep.
There's this one great moment where he's standing out and he's looking out at space and it says, slowly standing up, he looked out across the open vista of space. A glorious binary was off to port, a red giant with tiny white dwarf above it, a trail of incandescent fire spiraling up from the red giant's surface into the glowing white dwarf. The Milky Way spanned the heavens with 100 million joules of light, and he paused for a moment to admire the view. It was hard to imagine there was really a war on. The silence of space was all-encompassing, an eternity to be explored, and he again felt the wonder of it all, and the sense of irony about the fact that even out here, humankind could not escape the bitterness of war. Which... it's a powerful moment for a Wing Commander tie-in novel.
Especially when he's like, the moment he's doing it, he's standing outside and it's just him in his spacesuit walking along the hull of the ship. So it's
you can picture that. Starcom mag boots.
Yeah.
I would also like to point something out, how the romance works so much differently compared to the two different authors.
Yeah, it's
yes.
Ooh.
Well, I'm at the risk of spoiling something. We're gonna have a peak horniness, but it's not in these chapters.
Yeah. Well, but there's the way it's written in like Milk Run. It was very adolescent. Like it was just pure horny sex. And in this one, it's literally like a kitchen sink drama where he walks in and it's like John, Marcia, and she turns around in love again. It's very. I don't want to say it's like a soap opera, but it's a much different kind of
it flirts
writing.
with it a bit.
It's very soap operatic. She accuses him of sleeping with Starlight.
Ensigns everywhere.
Okay, I see how their relationship works. I've seen this couple before.
Yeah. Apparently, Bear's a pimp. Right?
I don't know if I would call it romantic though, because it's almost devoid of sex in some way. It's just that they have a history.
The Ice Princess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
he literally calls her the Ice Princess.
Yeah,
that was her nickname in school.
Yeah, and then she brings up his and like talks about his brother, and then he's like, "My brother's dead." Oh, jeez! And she's like, and then immediately she melts. And then
no better line than "My brother's dead."
Yeah. Is that?
And even at the end of the chapter when they're parting ways, they're so like he's just kind of standing there awkwardly, not sure what to do. Like there's like, I mean, they're ex-lovers, so obviously it's awkward, but like there's no like sense of like a passion underneath. Like there's kind of, all right, we'll see you later.
Never call me again.
It's kind of like a Paul Simon song sense to it. Like the end of Hearts and Bones or something.
Yeah, like, let's never talk, but by the way, I'm going to be guiding you in for airstrikes tomorrow.
So I discovered in this book, something I had never noticed before, and I think Trillian picked up on it too, is there is technically a ship mentioned that we have not heard of before. There's a point once the Tarawa gets to, once it jumps into the Vukartag system, they scan a single reconnaissance plane, which is, quote, a Drakhi. Not a Drakri with an R, but a Drakhi with just an I.
See, I did pick up on that. I just assumed that when they were scanning it, it made a mistake.
that was my first assumption, too. And I went back and checked and found that, no, it's Drakhi in the original text. And so Bill Forstchen's Typos in Wing Commander novels, there's a tradition that has existed before this where he uses some slightly off-Kilrathi name, and it seems to intentionally be for another kind of ship. In fact, there's a point later in this book where there's a Graki, which is like a mix between a Graka and a Dralthi or Drakri. And there's a point in the Wing Commander 4 novel where it's a Draltha with an A instead of an I. And it's happened so many times that I think it has to be intentional that he's spinning out new Kilrathi ship names based on the other ones. And we just never noticed this one before.
Weird. Like, maybe that's what he's doing, but it just feels kind of lazy, though.
It does, but I kind of wonder if he... So I tried to put myself back into his seat, and he has, again, this Bible booklet that says Kilrathi medium fighters, Dralthi, Drakri. Kilrathi heavy fighters, Jalki, Jalthi. Kilrathi transports, Dorkathi, Dorkir. I think he's keeping up what he thinks is the way Kilrathi ships are named to create new ones.
Huh. Interesting.
It's almost like when you're learning a foreign language, they like conjugate their verbs.
Yeah.
Like you swap one letter for another.
Which really was how they created the names for the Kilrathi ships in Wing Commander 2. Salthi, Sartha.
Yeah.
Science fiction also has a long history of that. I know that Loaf, you're familiar with that weird time with Star Trek before Star Trek the Motion Picture came out, where people were just writing stuff. They were just making it up. They were just making it up.
We actually talked about that earlier in this show because the Franz Joseph Manual, which started as a fan publication and became official, was a major influence in Wing Commander 2.
Right, and that's a perfect example because there's so much in there that was great. I mean, I own it myself, but it was completely discarded when they did. Was it the motion picture or was it TNG? One or the other.
TNG.
TNG.
Yeah. There's a lot of drama with Gene Roddenberry and Franz Joseph you can look up online. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. But this is a perfect example of that, where maybe Forstchen was trying to figure out what pieces go where. Let's throw stuff at the wall to see what sticks, kind of thing.
Very much so, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think we also need to bring up you were about to bring that up about the one thing he talks about this, right? Before you get out of your ship, make sure you check your safety. Because you don't want to become...
One thing Bill does a lot is repeat himself. Yep. He has these particular military stories that will show up over and over again. And in fact, in the course of these 4 chapters, he talks twice about how Bear has heard of these times where someone has accidentally ejected inside the
ship.
cockpit. It's first Bear talks about it when he's landing, and then later when there's this emergency, they have to make sure the ejection seats are
he
disabled.
doesn't know if he's turned it off or not, panicking.
So I was curious if that was a real story, if there was some particular canonical real world somebody who ejected in a hangar and killed themselves. What I found was there's no particular recorded version of that, but it is an old wives' tale that is continued to be told by veterans. I found all these message boards where, I was a sergeant at Ramstein. I heard about that. It was somebody in the other squadron. And it's always an F4 or an A4 Skyhawk or something. Or every version of the story changes what base it's at or what plane it's at. But it is something that it's like a story that's told in the actual military about this sort of thing. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, because I even thought, usually when you hear ejection stories, it's too low, canopy doesn't go, but never usually I was on the ground and proceeded to eject into something. Even on the hangar deck of a super carrier today, you don't really hear stuff about that, about them cooking off like that way.
I thought it was really cool, just a tiny little reference that you have an auto ejection system that triggers when your shields in your power plant go, which, we obviously don't see the
don't have
actual wing commander.
Yeah, definitely we do not.
I should mention that David Ladyman was the person who edited these for continuity, and he is very on the ball. I've seen his edits for some of these books before, and they are fantastic. But often Bane didn't make the changes. He sent me this document of all the changes he asked for false colors, and it was every single error that every fan noticed. They just never did them. So I suspect that somewhere along the line, someone pulled that out. He would have pulled it out and said, you can't actually do this in the game.
I'm trying to think, what else do we need to...
I don't. Maybe I picked up on this wrong, but I feel like...
Hey, there's no wrong answers here.
Well, I feel like when you're reading Milk Run, obviously they're just in the Johnny Green, but it feels like Vukertag is really well defended, but then when the Tarawa comes in, they just sort of stomp all over the Kilrathi. They take minimal losses. There's not a whole lot of defense, and they just kind of wipe them out. So it's what happened to this unusually defended base?
I noticed that, and I think the big difference, because they keep the cosmology of Vukartag the same, still has the gas giant and the orbital station.
Yeah.
One thing is, I think the Sevastopol gets the tougher job of going to actually destroy the Kilrathi space base and the aerial defenses. The other aspect is the cruiser isn't there. The big deal in Milk Run was that they spotted this Kilrathi cruiser that was guarding the planet, and it seems to be gone now because we never hear about it in End Run.
That's true. Because you hear about missiles from the moon.
Yeah,
right. There's a salvo
base on the moon. Yeah.
Yep. And then, because they try to destroy the assault landing ships, are Higgins boats for these more like landing ship tanks, I guess, since they disgorge walkers.
There's two types. There's the first wave that do 100 troops each, and then there's heavy weapons landers behind them.
So those are our space Higgins boats, basically. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because that's something that will later in End Run. That event actually happens in Vukertag, except the roles are reversed. Spoiler.
But that is a good point. Yeah, and Milk Run is hard to figure because a cruiser and a space base and a couple of squadrons of fighters and two regiments of Imperial Guard are an impressive defense against a corvette or a raider or something, but against two carriers and Confederation. So there's mention that the Kilrathi have two regiments of their 23rd Division of the Claw defending the planet, and the Confederation sends in 9 regiments to take them out. So it's this intelligence has figured out what's there, and this raid is planned to be overkill so that it's not an issue.
Yeah, so it also seems like they were going after Throcket's grandmother, the Dowager.
Well, and speaking of overkill, I noticed in Chapter 4, there's a pretty liberal use of nuclear weapons.
Yes, this is they love it. Love it. Yeah, God.
Now, let me ask you this, because you know a great deal more about history, and I went through. I only have a couple books on Douglas MacArthur. I've got Bill Manchester's book in front of me. I remember towards the end of the Korean War that I believe MacArthur wanted to do what he called limited warfare, which was the use of small-yield nuclear weapons.
I think about 50 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's no such thing as a small yield. Yeah. But I also think that ties into both maybe Forstchen's personal politics. I don't know about that because I've never met him. But I also remember in later books, he admits that there is some in MacArthur on Tolwyn, and I was wondering maybe if you saw some carryover.
I will say, as a kid when I was reading this, I remember distinctly thinking, how the hell are these guys fighting through all of this blast, right? Because although he does kind of clean it up by saying it's antimatter warheads with these but they have these massive yields. He's talking about mushroom clouds exploding on this plateau, and then the assault craft, they launch their suppression missiles, which are further explosions. Oh, that reminds me of the kick-ass anti-radar missile, right? That becomes kind of a big deal. They mention over and over, right? That busts in the 50 submunitions of small antimatter warheads. So again, we have these, even as a child, I remember thinking, that is a hellacious amount of energy being released, and then suddenly all these troops are now fighting through this wasteland.
I have three thoughts. Exactly three thoughts about this. So one, you're absolutely correct. In the 1950s, the American military was very interested in the idea of battlefield nukes, which would be,
we're certified in those.
Yes, we watched a training video to learn how to fire.
Certified. We're also bazooka team certified. Mm-hmm. We can book us for birthday parties.
Yeah,
wasn't that? Oh God, there was the shoulder carry nuclear.
Davy Crockett.
Yeah.
Davy Crockett.
Not something you want. Recoilless rifle.
Yeah, Allie and Jason and I. Well, we watched Babylon 5 when we're doing Space Beyond now, and then while whoever's preparing dinner, we just turn on YouTubes of like old Army training videos, and it's great.
We can fly B-24 now too.
Yeah,
that's what we learned on Tuesday. We are B-24 certified.
But I don't. Second thought was I don't think this is so much referring to nuclear weapons in their scary sense. I think it's more. This is aliens take off and nuke the site from orbit. Yeah. It's the sci-fi trope of
we can throw nukes.
The way to get ready a planet ready is nukes, because it's a recognition that a lot of sci-fi doesn't have, which is that planets are really big.
Yeah.
We've got 9,000 troops landing to take this planet.
One quarter of a plateau.
Imagine 9,000 people invading Earth.
Yeah.
Welcome
to Rockville.
The thing to bring it a bit further along is, and it's not hilarious when you read it, but it's hilarious to say it, is that the chapter ends with them nuking the Imperial Emperor's grandmother's castle, and they just run away from the blast.
Yeah.
They spin it for 3 minutes, and they all run.
Well, they get in their hover cars.
That's right. Go 3 clicks away. Right?
Oh,
3 clicks.
Yeah, there you go. 3 clicks away.
Yeah, 3 clicks away minimum.
Which again, that's another Forstchen world building right there. Is we've never seen a car in Wing Commander. We don't know how they work. In fact, the only reference to them so far is that there are AT-AT walkers that are apparently in this battle. But all those the commandos run out to their vehicles, and he just casually mentions that they hover away.
Yeah. After they've looted the place.
Yeah, they've looted the place.
Yeah, they're stealing artifacts and
booze or furniture polish or whatever. Yeah, the old.
And it's his ability to just make it seem so casual and natural that they hover. There's a hover car.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
What the hell was that sound?
What?
Oh, that weird beep.
Oh, that's Chris Reed. He beeps now.
Oh.
I don't know.
All right. Yeah, something joining something.
So let's go around to talk about what's next. Where do you see these characters going? Give us your summation of End Run.
I think they're going to kill Ra.
I don't know about that. I haven't read the next chapter yet. I guess not necessarily where they're going, because we've all read the actual book. But where would you like to see them go with this introduction to the characters? What What direction outward do you want to experience?
How about this? How do you think? We all read these as kids, right? And how do you see it now going?
Yeah, now that you're an adult, nuclear weapons aren't necessarily great.
Yeah.
It's. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I didn't even.
Yeah, I think it's always best to have you guys go first.
This is something I know I talked to Love before we even started. This was my initial feelings on the first chapter of End Run. What's kind of I know other authors have done this. Anthony Burgess did it in A Clockwork Orange, but he's basically speaking to the audience about kind of like as Jason looks over the Tarawa, he's just kind of like, and I always got the feeling that maybe Bill Forstian was just kind of like, what did I just inherit? As he's looking over Wing Commander as a whole, he's like, oh man, what did I get myself into? I also feel that now that I've gotten older and I've read more books, I've read different things. There are certain things about Forstian's prose that connects with me a lot better because it's obviously technically very accurate in terms of military. It's very pulpy. I think I said last time that this is the kind of book that they'd be reading if we were in Starship Troopers. This is I don't want to sound too strongly, but it's really naval warfare fetishization.
Oh yeah. That's why I love it. Don't get me wrong. That's why I love this. Yeah. I absolutely love this. Not gonna lie.
It's almost like a comic book.
I think there's almost an arc to how you appreciate things. You start off as a kid and you say, "This is awesome. Spaceships are blowing up. It's my favorite game. This is so great."
Yep. Carriers, new names.
And then you get a little older and you're like, "Wait a minute. I've read fancy novels now. I've seen books that have great thoughts, and I need to eschew this. This is pablum." And then you get into your late 30s and you say, "Wait a minute. This is fun.
Yeah.
This is so much more interesting to think about than, with all due respect to Mr. Rushdie, this."
Yeah, right. Yeah. You don't always need something heavy.
Yeah,
it's like you can chew on this quick and you're, within what? A paragraph, you're fully into it. You're lost in the world, and before you know it, in your head you're thinking, you're walking down the hallways of the Concordia and the Tarawa. You can see Doomsday. Hey guys.
Pure escapism, and
yes, in the best sense. And this too, because it's when we get to Fleet Action, we get weighted down by a little bit more of his politics, where it's not just this awesome military story of let's go kick ass.
We have to see
That's what I was gonna say. It's that you know where Fleet Action goes, and where.
I think that's also something that helps with End Run is that it's not heavy politics.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun.
Story.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff later on just it doesn't gel as well, shall we say.
Yeah, I don't even want to judge that. I don't want to be in this current.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we will get to that eventually, but I don't judge it as harshly as it might have sounded like earlier.
Yeah. It's just such a different take from this one.
There's a wide gulf between Donald Trump is great and Bill Forstian writing super pro-military stuff. It's so it's not even But and that'll be really interesting to talk about once we get there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But and any other last thoughts?
So is this our final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
I think it's just amazing that you can pull up Wing Commander novels anytime you want on your phone, on your tablet, and I'm sitting next to a pile of 15 copies of End Run, but I'm reading it on my phone.
And that used to be that's a small treasure right there. That's like in the mid-90s, that would have been a child's college education potential. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. I actually went, so it's funny, last time we were doing this, I was like, we talked about when did we get these? So I started searching through the Usenet trying to find this. And I got them sometime between this, I think it was, I was looking, I posted in Usenet, hey, I'm trying to find these in July of 96. And then by the summer of the next year, I was telling people about this website called Amazon.com, where you can get all the books from. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing to see this.
Alexa, order me End Run.
How many copies would you like?
What are you looking for?
I forgot you were still over there.
And you can have Alexa read you end run.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Crazy.
Not as good as though we do it, right? This actually, this was the first time when we've done gameplay we haven't had to voice act.
Well, next time we'll do a series with some.
Oh, I do
acting.
declare.
Come on, yeah.
We have to.
Well, any other thoughts? Going once?
It'll just be fun to see where it goes. I mean, obviously we know, but it's been a while since I read this, so it's fun.
Yeah,
to experience.
the adult perspective is, it's just funny to see, the ridiculous things. Like, I'm never gonna forget now Tar and Pole. I mean, it's just so ridiculous, and it's like, God, how do you not notice that stuff? But it just makes it so awesome.
Well, I gotta go start a Wikipedia entry for the Draki. So
awesome.
We're gonna say next week, not next week, 2 weeks from now, chapters 5 through 8. Next week we'll do something different on the show.
Oh, there you go.
We'll break it up a little, but chapters 5 through 8 of End Run for the next one for the next book club, which will be in 2 weeks. That'll be our first March episode.
Ooh, first ever March episode.
Ever March
this
episode.
This is our first
Very
ever
exciting.
February 21st episode. First ever. Never happened before.
And thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you for helping get resources and everything ready. I hope folks have enjoyed this in some way. I certainly had a heck of a lot of fun chatting End Run, as I always do.
Everything, right? Now what are we doing?
Well, we're about to say goodbye, so let me go to our goodbye screen.
But not fully.
Take off my space headphones.
We don't need these anymore. Oh, ears are cold. Ooh. Wow, it's weird hearing everything now.
Yes, look, my hair looks better now.
Oh, look at me.
All right, everybody. Well, that was our very first real episode of All Wings Considered. I hope you had fun. We're going to keep doing it because it's just tremendously fun
We've had
our Thursday.
It's been fun to learn how to watch you learn how to do this stuff.
It's been great learning stuff. Obviously we had some various issues this week with technical things, but
hey, better than before.
We're real people doing real stuff. Whatever.
That's right, but.
And anything you'd like to see, let us know. Questions you have for future episodes, we'll do like a Q&A where we put the text on screen and answer it.
Right.
We'll do audience interaction.
Gore Talk will make a comeback.
Gore Talk will be back. We will have celebrities. We'll bring in some of the amazing folks who created these games to ask our dumb questions to them in person. And we'll just show you a lot more spaceships. We'll play a lot more Wing Commander. We'll learn about books and history and whatever. And with that, I'm going to roll our credits.
But don't go anywhere.